Like I said again, what's going on, good people? What's going on, bad?
Well, this is a little bit about what's going on with these bees, man. And it's bad. It's real bad. So we're gonna start it off on this mission right now that I'm about to do. We're about to lay up there and go get the truck after we go to the bar, get a drink too. We're gonna have some fun with y'all with this shit while we listen to what's happening in the world today with these bees, man. Our life as we know it, man, is being jeopardized by some rich sons of bitches that ain't worth shit. Here we go.
You know, there are beings, earthlings, that are often overlooked but offer more amazement than some of the creatures we can make up. A bee is one of those beings. It is the super being of its kind, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to give you a look into their lives. I'm going to show you how their population may affect our population. And I'm going to show you some of the secrets of these magnificent creatures and the superfood they create, honey. We will look into the workings of their natural technologies, and you will see just how advanced these beings are as we step into the secret lives of bees.
About to go steal the Earl Grey. Straight down there in our house. Now just looking at the wallpaper on her house. That's Friday. I'm looking at that.
Worldwide,
Kick my
there
other
are
phone.
some 20,000 species of bees. They are believed to have originated in Africa, a descendant of the ancient wasp, and are today found almost everywhere flowers exist. Now, there are two classes of bees, social and solitary. And within those two classes, there are only a few that people commonly encounter. In the social class, there are bumblebees, honeybees, and Africanized honeybees. The carpenter, digger, mining, yellow-faced bees, leaf cutting and mason bees, plasterer bees, sweat bees, these are all solitary. For the purpose of this presentation, I will be discussing the social class that form large colonies, particularly the common honeybee. Now, these bees are community builders. They will build a colony to its peak population, and then the queen, along with 30 to 70% of her workers, form a swarm and leave the hive to find a new home. The youngest generation are left behind in the old hive to start over. This is how colony bees reproduce, one colony at a time, each one different from the first. Now, what happens inside the hive, my friends, is something amazing. What you have inside the hive is a caste system in which you have three types of bees: the female queen and worker bees, and the male drones. The way this works is the queen controls the sex of the bees in the colony. After she takes in the sperm of a drone, she can store it in her spermatheca, which is a holding sac in her reproductive system. This allows the queen to later decide which eggs she will fertilize and which eggs she will not. If the eggs are left unfertilized, they are haploid, meaning they have a set of unpaired chromosomes. These will become the male drones. If, on the other hand, the queen fertilizes the eggs, they will become diploid, creating a female queen or worker. It is the diet of the female larva that will determine if she becomes a queen or worker. If she is well fed, she will become a queen. If she is starved, she will become a worker. Now, a queen can live up to 5 or 6 years, but they normally live up to 2 or 3 years in the colony. During that time, the queen may lay up to around 500,000 eggs. When she does this, she releases a pheromone that keeps the other female bees from laying eggs, although a few colonies may end up with more than one queen. Now, because drones are the result of unfertilized eggs, they have no fathers, but they do have grandfathers. Their lives are not really that great, as all they are required to do is eat and mate with the queen bees. Now, I know to some that sounds like a pretty sweet deal, but the life of a drone is you either mate or die. And even when they do mate with a queen, that kills them. You see, drones will leave the colony to go congregate with other drones. When the queen leaves the hive, she will come across one of these congregations. When the drones see her, they give chase, and the fastest drone wins. The winning drone, or sap, will mount the queen and release his endophallus into the queen, causing the drone to fall back paralyzed. The queen will then take in the drone's semen and store it in her spermatheca. After the queen is done with him, the drone falls dead. Now that's what I call a climax. Anyway, this is where things get crazy. Often after this process, the drone's endophallus will detach from its body and is left hanging out of the queen. This is called the mating sign, and this lets other drones know that this queen is a prime candidate for mating. In fact, the queen will go through 20 plus endophalluses before the day is up. She will actually take in the drone's semen, making him think he's the one, and then after he's dead, she releases all his semen and moves on to the next drone. And what sucks is that most drones don't even get a shot at the queen before they die. Now, the reason the queen does this is to increase the chances of getting healthy semen, as well as ensuring diversity among the colonies, and to prevent inbreeding. Which is why it is important to have one queen per colony. However, on an occasion, a hive may end up with more than one queen. Normally, the worker bees do not lay eggs to help the queen present, but if the queen is failing or if she is missing, workers may step up to lay unfertilized eggs, creating drones with the semen that could preserve the genetics of their colony. So because workers do not lay eggs, they take on several tasks in and outside the hive throughout their lifetime, which is around 6 weeks. These workers go through 4 main stages. After the worker bee emerges from its cell as an adult, it starts out as a cleaner and capper. Their job is to clean the dirty cells and learn how to cap and cover the cells with wax, using their newly developed wax glands. They also have a way of branding each cell to let other bees know what's inside the cell, sort of a bee writing system. They also learn how to get food, and after a few days, the workers move up to become nurses, where they tend to the brood and queen, basically keeping the brood and queen fed with royal jelly. Royal jelly is a secretion of nutrition from the worker bees of the hive. This is fed to all the larvae to a certain point, and then they are cut off. Only the chosen queen will continue to be fed the royal jelly. So after this nurturing stage, the workers begin to put more into building the hive. This is where they become the honeycomb builders, packers, cleaners, and movers. They take and handle the nectar from incoming foragers, passing it along to one another. They become the honey producers, and then they become the wax producers, the cappers of the honeycomb cells. They begin to take orientation flights at around 18 days of age, mind you. Kids grow up so fast these days, don't they? They leave the hive, circle it, and travel a short distance, then return. And each time they do this, they travel a little bit further out. Each hive has a distinct odor. This helps bees in the colony to identify their hive, but sometimes workers can drift, and sometimes they wind up in a hive that is not their own. Not a good day for that bee. But these orientation flights prepare them for their next and final duties, guarding and foraging. Now, because every hive has a distinct odor, so do the bees that belong to that hive. So the guard bees will actually post up outside the hive like royal guards and assess everything trying to enter the hive and making sure that outsiders do not get in. You see, bees use several methods to communicate. One of them is by dance, which are rhythmic signals to other bees. These dances have numerous functions, including providing information about what is going on outside the nest. They can triangulate locations by coordinating their dances to line up with the sun. This can give away the position of food and predators. They can see a bear or man coming in the distance, report back to the hive that some type of monster is coming for their honey, and then they will take action. Because remember, they have their own enemies. For example, the yellow jacket. Oh, this dude is bad news.
You're through to your garage. You, need me to bring you a ride?
These yellow jackets are just social wasps.
It's coming at you.
Colonies just like honeybees, except the yellow jacket has a taste for flesh. And when their food supply runs low, which tends to happen going into fall season, guess who they are going to pay a visit to? The honeybees, us. Ever have one try to take some of your coffee or food? They can be quite aggressive. They are actually trying to rob you with a potentially deadly weapon. And these are the ones that like to sting you. And yes, they can be the criminals of the bee kingdom. They will attack and invade a hive. They will kill the guards, kill the workers, eat the young, and steal the honey. And hornets, these other wasps, they're no better. They run around all day, kidnapping poor green grasshoppers, then throw them into their prison half dead, so that they can keep them fresh until it's time to feed them to their young. Now, of course, I'm making it sound worse than it is. They do play an important role in the circle of life. But moving on, the foragers of the honeybees are the elders of the colony at 21 days of age. They are the ones that go out into the world to collect four things: pollen, which they use as a protein source; nectar, which is their carbohydrate or sugar source; propolis, which is tree resins used for building materials and medicine for the hive; and water, used for hydration as well as cooling and evaporation for the hive. This is also one of the ingredients they need to produce honey.
Now, my wife.
Bees have to slave to make this honey. The foraging bee usually collects nectar from some 100 flowers before returning to the nest. One bee can only make about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey within its entire lifetime. So it takes around 550 plus bees collecting nectar from around 2 million flowers for 1 pound of honey. What they do is they will suck the nectar from the flowers, store it in a separate stomach, and once full, they carry it back to the nest to pass it along to one of the honey producers in the hive. They chew on the nectar, mixing it with enzymes, and start to blow bubbles with it to start what's called active evaporation. And they will keep passing this nectar on to other bee producers for a good 20 minutes until it is ready to be placed in one of the hexagonal cells.
And I heard what you said.
Once it is placed in the cell, it is still wet. So the bees will start passive evaporation by fanning the honey with their wings. Finally, they will cap the honey with a wax layer for storage.
Too bad they don't want to call it amaranth paper. It'll be alright. Alright, Google.
Now I want everyone to understand that these types of bees are almost completely dependent on the power of the sun. Think about this. In the hive as a collective, they are warm-blooded creatures living in a temperature-controlled hive. Individually, outside the hive, they are cold-blooded. Try figuring that one out. And the honey they produce is one of the most miraculous superfoods that exist. First off, it is the only food that virtually never goes bad. You could take a chunk of honey from the tombs of Egypt and eat it. All you have to do is heat it up. With that said, it is a great prepper's food source. You know, honey is better than any antibiotic out there. You can use it topically, and not only will it kill the bacteria, but it will keep the bacteria from building up immunity against it. But it must be raw honey, straight from the hive into the jar. That little bear-shaped bottle of brown honey, that stuff has been massively processed and pasteurized, heated up to kill bacteria. Did you hear what I just said? Commercial honey suppliers, they heat up, or should I say, cook the crap out of bacteria-killing honey so they can kill the bacteria. If you do use honey, make sure it's right. Make sure it is locally grown, as you want to support local beekeepers and those colonies in the area. Also, the pollen collected by the bees in your area is the same pollen that you breathe in. So eating honey from the same source as the pollen will help build immunity to the pollen, relieving allergies. Honey is a great energy booster, as the natural unprocessed sugars hit the bloodstream quickly. Honey helps keep the memory intact, loaded with antioxidants needed to keep the brain sharp. At the same time, helping the brain to absorb calcium. It will also help carry other nutrients to the cells in your body. Honey can also aid in helping you to sleep. It can suppress cough. It has antifungal and anti-inflammatory properties. So it is good for scrapes and burns. It can relieve sores, herpes. See, the enzymes draw fluid from the sores to cut microorganism growth. And as the honey mixes with small amounts of natural hydrogen peroxide in your body, it is much better than any prescription or non-prescription medication you can buy. Use it on your skin. You can mix honey with something like an olive oil, or rose oil, or almond oil, to make a moisturizer, hair conditioner. Add some crushed almonds to it, and now you have a facial scrub. And honey will take care of that acne. It will boost the immune system. It fights cancer cells, yeast infections, gum disease. It relieves acid reflux. And it is a natural aphrodisiac. I mean, folks, this stuff is a real gift from God, made by a tiny insect, raised under
Gift from
the
the
power
creator
of the sun.
fucking God, bro.
In a sense, it is truly liquid gold. So now that we've gotten through Honeybees 101, I want to discuss something that could develop into a major issue in the future if we are not careful. As you may very well know, we have been having some issues with the decline in bee populations. This has been going on since the mid-40s, but it did not really catch people's attention until about a decade ago. So let me tell you how important bees are. The majority of the vegetation you eat is dependent on bee pollination. When you have a field of flowers and trees, the wind will only contribute to about 20% of the pollination. When you throw bees in the mix, pollination goes from 20% to 100%. Because bees are so efficient, they get to every single flower. We've been trying to achieve this by hand. It cannot be done. Farmers often need to keep beehives around their crops, increasing their yield more than 3 times over. Now, the biggest problems for bees right now is inbreeding, parasitic mites, which attach themselves to the bee to suck their blood, weakening the bee. When the bee already has a lot of travel and work to do, can you imagine having a bug the size of a basketball stuck to your back, drinking your blood all day, and you still have to travel to work, do your job, and come back home to do more work with this thing stuck to you? What's amazing, now beekeepers have been able to...
Hello, you're through to Merriweather Security Consulting. What can I do for you?
Which will go inside
An air team is on its way to you.
without hurting the bees at all. And because of this, many beekeepers have been able to increase their numbers significantly. Bees are also threatened by pesticides, such as neonicotinoids. See, what happens is, this chemical gets into the ground.
We got your back.
Some seeds, in fact, are coated with a thin layer of this pesticide, which is basically a dose of nicotine. The flowers become loaded with this stuff, and in high doses, it will just kill any bee that takes nectar from that flower. If it is a low dose, it will cause the bee to basically get hot. They become disoriented and have trouble returning to the nest. And the problem is, once they do make it back to the hive, they contaminate other bees. And because of the fact that this is an addictive substance, the bees who have had a taste of it now only want to go to the flowers that have this chemical. Once they have this stuff in them, they are hooked. And yes, this stuff does make it into our vegetation, a type of nicotine, and it is very hard to detect. But Japan has been able to use technology to actively test for this in humans, and they have discovered some very interesting things. Now, frequencies, microwaves, cell phone towers, satellites, Wi-Fi, electromagnetic radiation, These things, of course, affect every living thing to various degrees. So yes, they are going to affect bees. The change in the resonant frequencies of the Earth are going to affect bees. To what degree, we really don't know. So it may cause drifting, disorientation, mutations in the colony, changes in bee behavior, leading to reductions in population. I mean, in humans, these things increase our risk of cancer. The real conspiracy comes in when they try to hide the data, showing the direct effects of these things on bees. These are very
And we're done.
frequencies.
Heading back to base.
Many of the things they do are rhythmic. For example, they do not flap their wings like birds, they beat them, meaning they move them a certain number of beats per second. Did you know that when extracting pollen, in order to get the pollen out of the stamen, the bee will beat its wings to match the note of C, and literally vibrate or shake the pollen out of the stamen. Now when they are in flight, it is around 230 beats per second. Now if you didn't know, there are several theories on how this insect can fly, still. It is not as simple as creating wind pressure under their wings, like a helicopter. I mean, they still don't even know what they use their antenna for. But one of these theories is this. In between the wings of the bee, there is a hollow cavity. As the bee beats its wings, the cavity builds up a field of energy. Once that frequency matches the resonant frequencies around the bee, that bee can now defy gravity. It sounds a bit nuts, but this is why I discuss frequency a lot. You should have a better understanding. So now, the bee can become a free agent, allowing them to carry the extra weight of nectar, pollen, water, and propolis. They create a magnetic bubble around them, so they can travel freely in straight lines at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour without the interference of wind. Do you know how fast that is for a creature that small? Has anyone ever heard of Viktor Grebennikov? He was a Russian scientist, entomologist, who invented a levitation platform using the wings of beetles. See, Grebennikov would observe a certain type of beetle that he would not give the name of, by the way, for conservation reasons. But he noticed that the beetle, despite its lack of aerodynamics, was able to fly in very odd, zigzag-like patterns. It could not fly very well, but it could hover no problem. So what he did was he tested the wings. He observed them under a microscope. He also noticed that these wings would move under certain conditions. So he then took as many of the wings he could find, and he arranged them in a grid pattern on a flat surface or board. He discovered that any object he placed over the board, such as a pencil, would fly right off. If he flipped the board over, the board would hover. He then took this to the next level by building a platform he could stand on with handlebars, with the insect wings underneath it. The handlebars were attached to 4 fan mechanisms underneath the board, which would change the direction of where the force was pushing so that he could control his movement. He claims that the energy field that built up around this device had built up to become so big that he could travel at speeds of close to 1,000 miles per hour without running into anything or creating any wind resistance, because he says there was some type of anti-gravity field around him that would protect him and allow him to be a free agent, similar to the theory of bee flight. You see, folks, shapes have energy. They resonate frequencies. A good example of this is the pyramid. The shape of a pyramid, for example, even just the frame alone, will create a double helix, spiraling energy vortex out of the top of the pyramid, and a magnetic field surrounding the entire pyramid. Now you can experiment with this at your home. You may want to look through the book Shape Power by Dan Davidson, where he breaks down the exact science of this, and also explains the application of this technology for free energy, healing, the creation of electromagnetic fields that can block out radiation, levitation or anti-gravity technology. Also imagine the effects this tech would have on the human psyche. This technology can be used by gardeners to enhance the growth of their plants, and there are several other applications of this which I may discuss later on. The point is this: you look at something like a bee, and like many things, you forget their importance. You forget why they were worshipped by the ancients. You forget that technologies are being developed, inspired by these creatures. There are many things about them that we do not understand. We are still learning. Honey has more benefits that I have not discussed that we still do not know what they are. Bees are one of the most organized beings on the planet. In time, we may discover even more secrets about their lives. But let's stay conscious of their numbers at this point, because if they fail at our population numbers, we are sure soon to follow.
It is what it is, people. I just like y'all to hear the truth for yourself. I ain't got no reason to lie to you. We all here together. Fuck all this bullshit that's been happening to us as the fucking people. That's why we gotta wake up, stop letting them treat us like people, and be the real people to make the world go round. Let's see what this is. So we're dealing with the mind.
Mr. Ramirez was told he was not under arrest, and yet he was refused use of the bathroom. That's a violation of civil rights.
You can wait and address this at trial.
Oh, I would like to address it now. I'm just saying,
Mr. Israel,
if guards in this courtroom would not allow you to use the bathroom, you would, by all definition, be detained.
I'm going to hold you in contempt if you continue to pursue this.
You're asking me to obey an erroneous court decision, and you tell me to wait. In my experience, wait.
Okay, find you in contempt.
Voluntary manslaughter. It's a good deal.
It's an enema of sunshine.
Sorry for
Taking a nanosecond off of your assembly line rubber stamp existence. Hello?
Everybody looking at you crazy. Roman Israel, talk about what to expect if you are arrested.
I'm gonna rap. I don't mean hip hop. I'm sorry. Why are the sisters standing and the brothers sitting?
That's gendered and sexist.
And polite.
And patronizing.
And polite.
Polite.
This is all for
That's it. Young people today ain't polite no more.
You firing me?
You were a cornerstone of activism. You're inspiring.
I'm tired of doing the impossible for the ungrateful.
You gotta make a living.
Take care of yourself.
I am.
I know where CJ's. Hold up. What's that word?
What?
Don't tell nobody.
Everything we discuss will be confidential. The man who did it, I know where he is. I want a reward, cash. The world is full of wonderful things.
What do you think?
When can I move in?
I just heard something about you from a solid source. You knew where I was.
God!
I got you. Anytime I want.
God!
These are dangerous people.
Roman, I'm concerned about you.
You don't just walk away from this.
I'm not off the mark.
I can finish this.
Each one of us is greater than the worst thing we've ever done.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting ready to go live. Just one moment. There's a couple other buttons that I have to press here. And then we'll be ready to rock and roll. This is going to be a great show, ladies and gentlemen. I would make sure to buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. All right, here we go. It'll be a lot of fun, folks. I don't know if you were here last time when I had the opportunity to speak with Lynn Williams. She is a shamanic healer, and she also does etheric implant removal. She releases and gets rid of negative energy. She also is a teacher, a coach, a guide for her clients, and she was actually visited by extraterrestrials back in 2010. She shared that experience with us, and actually when that happened, it activated a lot of different sensory themselves how to become implant free. I'll leave a link in the video description box. It's great to speak with you, Lynn. It's been a while. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Rick. How are you tonight?
Oh, fantastic. Living the dream out here in Grandma's garage. Going. So, the nice, absolutely love it. No, it's a nice day. It's been raining out here the past couple of days, so that's a different, it's kind of a different scenery here. It's always so bright, shiny, and so hot. But yeah, it's been great, really nice. Let's get into, for all those that have an opportunity to listen to this podcast, let's just jump right in, let's get into good stuff. Back in 2010, about 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago, you had an experience that has changed you forever. And I had a very bizarre experience. I can remember, like, when I was just a baby, like I was literally still in the crib, and I can remember it almost like it was yesterday. So I definitely believe in the paranormal and extraterrestrials and beings that, hey, maybe they were here first. I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff out there that we're not told about. And I think it's neat to get the perspective and hear the experiences that other people have with ETs or what might be some type of ET phenomenon. So talk to us about that.
Well, you're right. It did change my life. And I just want to clarify one thing, just because I'm in the work I do. I've actually worked with 1,500 very good people, but I did not share about this particular ability to. But I have talked to over 50 people. So just so people know the perspective, what we're going to be talking about a little later, I've really talked to and gathered the research and the data from an enormous number of people. So that's going to corroborate what we're talking about later. But to get to my ET experience, well, I guess I'll back it up and say, when I was a child, I came in, I believe I'm a star seed. So what does that mean? That means I came from another realm to volunteer to be here during this time. I was not trapped in the frequency of Earth, so I wasn't being recycled, and my soul wasn't being recycled. I actually chose to be here, and I have very visceral memories of that. And so when I was a little girl, things happened to me that I didn't know what was happening, because I go through my life, we all go through my life just like everybody else once we come through. But I had things happen like when I was 4 years old. I was lying on the grass looking up at the clouds because I could interact with the sylph beings, which are the cloud elemental beings, and I would watch them change shape. And I remember getting a download that I create my own reality. And I was so excited by that. I ran in the house and told my mom, I'm 4 years old. I was a very precocious, very verbal child. And I just said, hey, Mommy, I create my own reality. And she's like, yeah, don't play with your Barbie. And then at 8 years old, I remember her asking me, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I said, I'm going to go and change the world. And it just tumbled out of my mouth. And I didn't even know what that meant. Okay? I've just always known I had a really big something, mission or something that I was going to be doing, but I never knew what it was. And then I sort of went to sleep, as many children do, because as we tell our parents about some of the paranormal experiences we have, they tell us it's all in our imagination. So as little kids, we start to close ourselves up. And I had a few paranormal experiences, and my parents, again, told me it was all in my imagination. And then they send us to school, and they make us all left-brain thinkers, right? So where's the logic? Where's the evidence? Well, we know that creativity, our access to our spiritual gifts, all of that resides on the right side of the brain. And so they tried to put that big divide down the middle. And as we spiritually and consciously awaken, we're merging both hemispheres of the brains again. And this will allow us to access those spiritual gifts. So what happened was, when I kind of quote-unquote went back to sleep, I lived a very normal life. You know, I grew up, I went to college, I got married, I went into and had a very high-level, successful corporate career. I was an executive recruiter at the partnership level for several different search firms where I was placing senior-level executives. And I lived, I would say, a very normal life and doing normal things, right? I went out to restaurants with my friends and, you know, bought a lot of clothes and bought stuff and did all the stuff normal people do until 2010. And at that point, I was 51 years old, and I got invited to go to Agape Spiritual Center in Culver City, California, and that happens to be run by Michael Beckwith, and he was in the movie The Secret, as one of the teachers there, African American, and he had dreadlocks at the time. And he sort of ministered for this church. Now, I wasn't spiritual. If anything, I was agnostic at the time. But I was starting to believe at around age 50 there's a higher power because weird things were happening in my life. But I had never gone to church. My parents were not religious at all. I thought I was atheist through my 20s. So I was just starting to believe something has got a bigger hand in everything we're doing. Well, anyway, I get invited for a synchronicity, met with some friends. She says, well, why don't you come to this place? We've got kick-ass music. You're going to love it. And so I went for the music, literally. And they do get a lot of people out of the music industry in Hollywood come and play music there. And so I'm sitting about 4 rows back from the stage. Michael Beckworth is now speaking his Sunday sermon. He gets about 3,000 people, two sermons on a Sunday. I'm in the early sermon. And I'm sitting amongst this crowd, and all of a sudden he looks at me. And when he did, now I didn't know what this was at the time, but my third eye and my crown chakra popped open and started tingling. I didn't even know what a chakra was. I had nothing spiritual. I thought spiritual meant born again Christian. I truly did not have any concept. You know, I'd been in corporate America. I had my head down being very left-brain. So in any event, from that, I asked my friend what was going on. On the way home, she said, hey, gave you a download. I said, what's a download? The next thing I know, I'm taking classes at a doc and trying to figure out what's happening to me. What are chakras and what just happened to me? I'm meeting more and more spiritually open people. One of the gals I met there had a friend in Sao Paulo who said that she visited with ETs down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, that 600 people would go out to this site and the ships would land. Now, I always believed in Sasquatch, I believed in ETs. I'd just never seen any of them, right? So I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to talk to this lady. I want to hear her story. So we started doing three-way Skypes. My friend was in Silver Lake, I was in Marina Del Rey, California, and we had this friend down in Sao Paulo.
I'm making my move with probably
and
y'all
we started noticing over the Skype line these weird mechanical sounds would come in. And I'd say, what's that? And the gal down in Sao Paulo would say, oh, that's
trying to
ET.
do my
And
girl
like,
character in so I can do
so
this by myself. I was gonna take at least an hour to do this.
and I have come to find out, by the
I'm
way,
only
that
finishing
they
this
do
fed
use
because y'all don't
technology
do
as a conduit. I've done another talk on that with another interviewer about how the interface of technology allows these beings to come through even more. And so what would happen is I would go into this light trance. I'd be sitting in my office chair listening on Skype, and I would start to trance out a little bit. And so we stepped a few times, they came over a few times. Each time we kind of trance out, and my friend down in Sao Paulo, Lily, would say, oh yeah, they're back, and she would start actually talking for them. Now again, I was very skeptical about this, but I was open-minded. I've always been very open-minded. And so one night, the three-way Skype, we had an introductory offer for three-way Skype, and that had expired. One of us didn't want to pay for doing a three-way call anymore. So anyway, long story short, my girlfriend in Silver Lake was talking to one in Sao Paulo, and she rings me up on the phone and says, you've got to get on the phone right away. Our friends are here. And I can hear in the background over her Skype line, these friends are here, right? The sounds are coming over the Skype line. Next thing I know, she says that something is crawling up her back, like a massage roller is going up and down her spine. But there's no one in the house with her. Her pets are across the room. And I'm, again, very skeptical. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I believe these two. Maybe this is going too far. So I'm laying on my bed with the earpiece from my phone in the ear, listening to these two over here on Skype. And the next thing I know, she stops and says, oh my gosh, that feeling just stopped. And at that point, the feeling was in my chest. And it felt like two little baby hands were squeezing my heart. And I flipped out. In fact, I was speechless, and I just went, took a deep breath, and at that point, the gal in Sao Paulo goes into one of these monotone voices as she's translating for them, and she says, it's okay, man, just relax. We're working on you now. We're going to open up your chakras. And I was like, I know, I can feel them in my body. What are they doing? And they moved down to my ovaries, and they kind of squeezed those, and then they moved up to my throat, and I could feel squeezing in my throat. It didn't hurt. I was wide awake, and then the next thing I know, I felt them go up to my forehead, and at that point, I passed out for an hour. So I never saw them in my room. I never even heard them. I just felt them in my body. So I pass out for an hour because I had the clock right by my bedside as I'm lying on the bed. I wake up an hour later and I feel like I've been drugged, like I'm just coming out of anesthesia. And I've got the earpiece still in my ear for the phone, and I said to my friends, are you there? Are you there? I don't know what happened. I passed out. Well, they all went out as well. And so my girlfriend in Silver Lake, she's all groggy too, and she's like, what just happened? I fell asleep. I don't know what happened. So all three of us were knocked out. The gal down in Sao Paulo is still speaking in that mechanical voice, and she says, it's okay, Lynn. When they work on your pineal and pituitary gland, they have to knock you out. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And I felt so drugged, so I said, look, I got to hang up the phone and go to sleep. I can't keep my eyes open. I don't know what these things did to me, but I'll figure it out tomorrow. I got to go to sleep. Hung up the phone, passed out. An hour later, I hear those mechanical sounds that have been coming over the bedline. They're now in my bedroom, in the room, like coming out of nowhere, right? And I wake up, sit straight up in bed, and I'm like, holy crap. And the only aliens I could remember ever really seeing, because I didn't watch a lot of sci-fi, were the little gray aliens. So I'm figuring I got little gray aliens in my room. Turns out they were not the grays. They're higher level dimensional beings, and I actually think they're my homies. They're where I was before I volunteered here. So they're good guys. And it was time to wake me up. It was time to have me get on my mission. What did I come here to do? And so anyway, I'm hearing this sound.
I wasn't planning on working on it that hard because I thought that y'all was gonna blow something up or fuck something up. All because all y'all was in y'all jumping there so fast. I thought y'all was gonna fuck some sabotage some shit. But y'all wasn't.
The pool area, I lived in a multi-story townhouse with the original pool. And I'm being called to open up the grates, open up the sliders, and go out on the balcony. And I am scared to death, absolutely scared to death. So I walk over to the carry me sort of. I'm sort of floating. I can't explain it. It's like I'm walking, but they're pulling me at the same time. I get over to the grates, and I'm too chicken. I'm absolutely flipped out. I'm crying right now, scared out of my wits. Don't know what I'm about to do. And I run back over to the bed, and they pull me even harder. And the sounds in the room got louder. My darling, come back. You need something to drink, and they pull on the bed, over to the sliding glass door. And I know I have to do it, so I just muscle my curves, I pull back straight, open up the sliders, there's nothing there. So now I'm curious, like, okay, where are they? Where's the ship? Where are the little gray aliens? I go out on my balcony, the entire area, it sounds like it's coming out of the sky, are these mechanical sounds. And all of my neighbors are asleep. It's now midnight. Nobody has their lights on. It's deafening how loud it is. So I think I'm crazy. I'm like, am I having a stick-like break? What the heck is going on? So I run into the house and I call my friend in Silver Lake, and I wake her up and I said, just tell me you can hear this. Tell me I'm not crazy. And so I bring the phone out onto the balcony. She's all excited. She's like, oh my God. She said, you're there. She said, can you see the ship? Can you see the aliens? She said, no, I can't see anything. That's the tricky part. Well, I started to get that wave of sleepiness come back over me again. So I said, I don't know what's happening, but I got to go back to bed. I ended up sleeping till the morning. When I woke up, those sounds were still in the air. Okay? They went on till 4 o'clock that afternoon. I had neighbors down at the pool that were sunning themselves, and I'm like leaning over the balcony because they were all my friends. I knew all my neighbors, and I'm like, hey guys, can you hear all those sounds going on in the air? And they're like, what are you talking about? Hey Lynn, come on down and have a beer with us at the pool. So I go back inside, I call my friend and I said, I think we're crazy. I can't, my neighbors can't hear a thing, and I'm hearing them clear as day. So we Skyped with my friend in Sao Paulo that night to try to figure it out, and what she said is, she said, well, of course they can't hear them. All of your gifts are open now. You can hear them because you can hear into other realms. That's what they did, they woke you up. It's time for you to get on your mission. And I started crying again, just bawling tears, and I said, why did you do this to me? I don't want this. She started laughing. She said, I didn't do this to you, Lynn. You did this to you. This is your higher self. It's time for you to wake up. You just got some help. It's time for you to get on your mission. Well, from that day forward, my life changed. I could hear into the other realms. I could see. I had reptilians in my house. I had black helicopters over my house. I was meeting strange people. talking to me about coming to Mars. I was being invited into groups like Carrie Cassidy at Project Camelot. I mean, it was bizarre, and it was just happening rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid
Yeah,
fire.
I ain't one, but
I gotta jump in real quick. You said that you saw reptilians in your house. What is that like?
Well, it was scary the first time it happened, and I didn't see them all the way bled through. They were semi-bled through. So what I saw was, first of all, my animals picked them up. I had 2 cats, and the cats would see them and go cower under the furniture.
It's gonna be all right.
So I knew I had something in the house, and then
I'm gonna look at
I know
it.
this sounds bizarre, but I was having so many strange
See, you keep on saying that how it sounds. You ain't supposed to say how it sounds. You just supposed to say it. Either they gonna believe you or they not. You don't have to say that this, that, and the other. Just come out and say it. I'm just giving them everything that the Creator give me is what I got. I ain't got no more.
I get ships over my house to this day, little plasma ships.
But we're gonna go with what's really real and what I do know. I don't know nothing about her with her going to Mars or however you say you got there. But I know one thing is what I just now did. And the truth is, you mean right there.
they just pass it by. Let somebody else take care of it.
So I imagine kind of home before you measure, stand up and say, I don't want my water medicated anymore.
Oh, you handling his business. Weighing him out over there.
What are you doing out there? What are you doing around the well? That's our water. I should have to choose to put my fluoride in my water. By the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention is one of the 10 great public health achievements of the 20th century. In fact, for over 60 years, the American Dental Association has stated that brushing with fluoride toothpaste will prevent tooth decay. But is this true? Is there more to the story than what we've been told?
Triumph over tooth decay. Procter & Gamble announces Crest toothpaste with Fluorestan, its exclusive fluoride compound, world's greatest weapon against decay.
But Mom, no cavities.
Yes, Crest toothpaste really cuts down cavities because Crest has fluoride. The same fluoride dentists put right on teeth to prevent decay. With Crest, you put this fluoride on your teeth at home too. Prevent cavities. Use Crest.
Crest is accepted by the American Dental Association.
Today, 95% of the toothpaste sold in the United States contains fluoride, and 72% of all water is fluoridated.
Fluoride is safe and effective, and it's one of the most inexpensive ways to really cut down on dental decay.
Anything we can do to help prevent cavities on children, I think is very important.
Absolutely, fluoride is safe, it's effective.
Fluoridation of community water is extremely safe and extremely effective in preventing tooth decay. Science is on the side of fluoride being safe and effective. There is no controversy about this in the scientific community.
If it's such a simple issue, how is it that it's still going on after half a century? I remember it being debated.
Yeah, 30 years ago.
And it's continuously debated.
But just because we've been doing something 50 years doesn't necessarily mean that it's right.
Public health officials knew then what they know now. Would we have fluoride? Would it be added to our drinking water? Well, today a coalition of scientists, dentists, and doctors are taking action to stop fluoridation until it is proven safe.
The first widespread commercial use of fluoride was for the eradication of vermin. Since the 1800s, sodium fluoride has been a key ingredient in rat poison and insecticides. These products were commonly used in and around the home to kill lice, mice, rats, and insects. Fluoride proved to be not only a good way to kill rodents, but also an effective way to kill a man. As the use of fluoride became more popular, reports began flooding in of people dying from ingesting this toxic substance. Headlines screamed, roach poison in pancakes kills 11 men. Rancher takes dose of poison by mistake. Article after article, all having the same tragic endings. proving that sodium fluoride can and does indeed cause death. In fact, during the last part of the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution was taking hold of the modern world. An unfortunate byproduct of this technological revolution was that it created the most toxic pollutants known to man. And the most hazardous and destructive of them all was fluoride. In his award-winning book, The Fluoride Deception, investigative journalist Christopher Bryson examines fluoride's disturbing history. Bryson notes that in its early days, fluoride was a widely known and well-documented killer. Documentation from early lawsuits against fluoride manufacturers clearly shows that fluoride was a hazard, not only to humans, but to the environment as well, with damages reaching into the tens of millions of dollars. By 1930, the aluminum industry was the largest and most influential fluoride polluter. Industrial giants such as Alcoa knew they had to do something. Vegetation and livestock near Alcoa plants were being decimated as toxic fluoride fumes lingered, rendering nearby cattle lame and crippled, even causing death. One newspaper article from that time proclaimed, "During the past year, we had 51 head of cattle die. We had laboratory tests made, and these tests show excessive amounts of fluorine in the liver and kidneys. Also, some of our young cows had lost their teeth. Our saddle horses were so crippled from fluorine poisoning, they had to be shot." The serious nature of fluoride toxicity was beginning to be realized. As a result, fluoride's threat to corporate America was laid out in an exhaustive review conducted by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Toxicologist Floyd Diaz warned of new medical information exposing fluoride's harmful effects. Danish scientist Kaj Roland singled out the aluminum industry, specifically Alcoa, as the source of much of the fluoride poisoning. Fluoride was causing irreparable damage, and the word was getting out. Alcoa knew they had to act fast. Their high-powered attorneys sprung into action, quickly buying up farms and paying out settlements. Ironically enough, during that time, the U.S. Public Health Service was under the jurisdiction of the United States Treasury Secretary, Andrew W. Mellon. Mellon was the founder and major stockholder of Alcoa. He was also the founder of the Mellon Institute, an industry-funded research institute that was notorious for giving corporations such as Alcoa the scientific data they needed to defend themselves against lawsuits. The Mellon Institute published questionable and self-serving evidence that supported the effectiveness of fluoride in fighting tooth decay. In doing so, the Mellon Institute rats had put a smiling face on what had been a scientifically recognized environmental and workplace poison. It was an aluminum industry-funded scientist, Dr. Gerald Cox, who worked at the Mellon Institute, that first made the proposal to artificially fluoridate public water supplies. Mellon's economic interest in fluoridation was obvious. Fluoridation provided the chemical industry an opportunity to avoid liability under poisonous fluoride waste by means of promoting it as a health benefit. The official human experiments began in Grand Rapids, Michigan on January 25, 1945. 107 barrels of sodium fluoride were delivered to Grand Rapids, where city technicians began tipping it into the city's water supply. They were the first to publicly fluoridate their water. It was to serve as the test city, and its tooth decay rates were to be compared to those of non-fluoridated mosquito.
The study only lasted 5 years. There were no permanent teeth in the child born at the beginning of the study. It was an unblinded study. They did no measure of safety, and they claimed that there was a tremendous benefit to the permanent teeth. Well, there weren't any permanent teeth in the children who were born at the beginning of the study, and soon thereafter they fluoridated Muskegon, the control city. It's a phony baloney study used to demonstrate the benefits where there are none.
Unfortunately, fluoride's ugly side has almost entirely escaped the public view. As Bryson points out, historians have failed to record that fluoride pollution was in fact the biggest legal worry of the industries that were involved in developing the atomic bomb program. As some may remember, the Manhattan Project was a secret program which brought the atomic bomb into existence. But what most people are totally unaware of is the fact that fluoride was an essential element in the production of the atom bomb.
There's a guy named Harold Hodge that was the chief toxicologist for the Manhattan Project, and basically, in order to create a nuclear weapon, they needed massive, massive amounts of fluoride. He was hired as a toxicologist, a part of the team, to determine is there going to be any toxic effects of fluoride in this project. Really what they were worried about is they were worried about lawsuits. They knew that there was negative effects of fluoride. They had to basically invent this whole scheme so they could use the high levels of fluoride in the Manhattan Project to create atomic and nuclear weapons.
For more than 70 years, the Public Health Service has assured society that fluoridation is safe and effective. These assurances have largely rested on the results of the 1945 Newburgh-Kingston fluoride carriage trial. This study compared the safety of fluoride in drinking water with two New York cities, one fluoridated, the other not fluoridated. The impetus for the first fluoridated city, Grand Rapids, was born from this study. However, recently declassified documents show that this study was a complete fabrication. A trail of declassified Manhattan Project papers unearthed by investigative journalist Christopher Bryson showed that the toxicology department at the University of Rochester, which was under the direction of Harold Hodge, secretly monitored the Newburgh experiment to, quote, supply evidence useful in the litigation arising from an alleged loss of a fruit crop. In fact, these once restricted documents revealed that as far back as 1944, the Manhattan Project was spending money on toxicology studies on fluoride. Why? Because fluoride was the key ingredient used in the process of enriching uranium. Enriched uranium was the linchpin of the U.S. military's fledgling nuclear weapons program. Fluoride became a national security issue. The declassified documents suggest that Newburgh was simply another human experiment, one used to justify the interests and advancement of the nuclear industrial state. The final report of Newburgh concluded that small concentrations of fluoride were safe. Yet documents revealed that the top fluoride scientist in the U.S., Dr. H. Trinley Dean, known as the father of fluoridation, secretly opposed the experiment, fearing that fluoride's toxicity would be revealed. Until now, Dean's dissent on Newburgh has never been made public.
There's irrefutable evidence that the U.S. military, the Manhattan Project, the makers of the atomic bomb, concealed evidence of fluoride's harm to their workers, to the community, and to the American public. One study was published in the Journal of the American Dental Association in 1948 by Dale.
In these files, Manhattan Project Captain Peter Dale at the University of Rochester reported preliminary results of dental investigations among laboratory fluoride workers at Columbia University. He concluded that fluoride did not prevent cavities in the 95 laboratory workers examined. Quote, their teeth seemed to be deteriorating rapidly, and their gums bled more freely. In fact, most of the hydrofluoric acid workers examined had few or no teeth left. They were in large part toothless or nearly toothless. This information, however, was left out of the published version. The published study merely notes that the fluoride workers had fewer cavities than did the unexposed workers. They didn't mention the fact that they had fewer cavities because their teeth had fallen out of their mouths. Since World War II, fluoride has been one of the most destructive environmental pollutants. At one point during the Cold War, fluoride was blamed for more damage claims against industry than all 20 other major air pollutants combined.
Fluoride was responsible for one of the most notorious environmental disasters in U.S. history, the town of Donora, Pennsylvania, which jump-started the environmental movement.
In 1948, the small mill town lost 20 people, and an estimated 6,000 men, women, and children were sickened by U.S. Steel's dark blanketing smog. Even the town's name betrayed its corporate roots. Donora was an amalgam of the first name of Nora Mellon, the wife of industrialist Andrew W. Mellon.
After the Halloween disaster in Donora, Pennsylvania, Philip Stanley, a chemist, went to Donora, and he was able to test and measure and prove that it was fluoride that had caused all those deaths.
Sadler quickly went public. Article after article ran the story. Chemist says fluorine gas caused 19 smog deaths. Sadler said, chronic fluorine poisoning has been killing people in Donora for a long time. It has left its characteristic trademark on the valley's animals, crops, and vegetation. Both the U.S. Army and the Atomic Energy Commission, now known as the Energy Department, had a secret and vital interest in the outcome of the Donora disaster. If fluoride were fingered for the Denora deaths, it might bring unwanted scrutiny of worker health safety for those in the bomb factories, resulting in damage suits and extensive requirements for air pollution controls. On October 1949, the Public Health Service official report on Denora was released. The 173-page government document appeared to be of similar size to that of the Holy Bible and came to virtually no conclusions. The report's emphasis was on bad weather and that the disaster was therefore an act of God. The report made no mention of fluoride. Could it be there was a vested interest on the part of the government not to upset the public concerning the potential dangers of fluoride? Although it was Gerald Cox's idea that ultimately led to the endorsement of water fluoridation, the man who gave the official endorsement was Federal Security Administrator Oscar R. Ewing, Alcoa's top Wall Street attorney. 9 months after the Denora disaster, Ewing made a surprise announcement for the nation. The U.S. Public Health Service was reversing a long-held position. The ex-Alcoa lawyer declared that his agency now favored adding fluoride to drinking water across the United States. Coincidence? When it came time to choose a public relations representative to persuade public opinion in favor of water fluoridation, Ewing chose none other than the father of public relations himself, Edward Bernays.
When they're selling water fluoridation, they didn't just walk out and say it's good for you. They actually hired Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud's nephew, to sell Americans on how good it was to have silicon fluoride in the water.
Edward Bernays was the one that created how to control the population through media and through advertising.
Edward Bernays, also known as the father of spin, pioneered the idea of crowd psychology. In 1928, he wrote a book called Propaganda, in which he wrote, "If we understand the mechanism and motives of the group mind, is it not possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without their knowing it?" He called it the engineering of consent. Bernays introduced the corporate giants to crowd psychology methods and polished techniques to manipulate society. He convinced the population to buy on impulse things they didn't even need. In his writings, he concluded that individuals were controlled by 4 basic motivations: self-preservation, aggression, security, and sex. Bernays' belief was that by appealing to any of these 4 motives, it was possible to manipulate the majority of the population into doing almost anything. You could brainwash them into smoking cigarettes, starting wars, electing politicians, you name it. And given the proven effectiveness of these techniques, it was no coincidence that the Aluminum Company of America asked Bernays to head the campaign for the fluoridation of the United States water supply.
People like Bernays, were masters of social engineering. His entire thesis, if you will, is that you don't talk to the public in a rational, scientific way. Instead, you appeal to their emotions and you invoke their fears. He was key in getting women to start smoking. He positioned cigarettes as being sexy and individualistic and power to the woman. That was the framing of why women should start smoking.
A consumerist culture was born, and the United States government took notice. U.S. agencies soon adopted Bernays' techniques of manipulation to manufacture the fear of ever-present danger in the minds of the people, to give those in power greater control of what Bernays called the mass mind. He went on to propose in his book Propaganda, those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This statement holds just as true today as it did in the 20s when Bernays first wrote it. Throughout medical science, including dentistry, poison-producing corporations have always been able to infiltrate major institutions and dominate their narrative.
When Christopher Bright was writing this book, The Fluoride Deception, he reached out to Edward Bernays. Bernays said it was child's play to convince the American public that fluoride was good for them.
While the official narrative ran, the case for fluoride had been proven. Some people weren't so quick to jump on the fluoridation bandwagon.
Because fluoride had been used for years as a rat poison, to kill coyotes, to kill cockroaches. Some of those opposing fluoridation were in fact dentists. And because of their advocacy for safe water, they were censored by the American Dental Association. If they worked for the Public Health Service, they got fired. If they were team players who kept their mouth shut, they got to keep their job. So out of fear, many people who knew better remained silent.
The true story behind water fluoridation can be hard to swallow. The facelift performed on fluoride dating back more than 60 years ago has misled generations. Instead of conjuring up the image of a crippled worker or a poisoned forest, we see smiling children. As a new generation arises, we must sound the alarm yet again. To those who have ears to hear, this film is meant to be a warning. This film will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that fluoride is a deadly poison being added to our water supply. It will further prove that the chemical commonly known as fluoride is the only chemical added to public drinking water to treat you, the individual, rather than the water. The information presented in this film can change your life. It can help protect your health and the health of your loved ones. It will lay out the real facts behind water fluoridation. It will expose the hidden hand behind the curtain, pulling the levers of industry, corporate profit, and public perception. Fluoridation is neither safe nor effective, but rather a fraud. And honestly, one of the biggest hoaxes ever perpetrated in human history.
To say things like tobacco is harmless, fluoride is harmless. Agent Orange is harmless, they say. DDT was harmless. That's the, yeah, and GMOs now, they say, are harmless. There's a long history of science selling out to corporate interests while the people are systematically poisoned.
And to this day, people still believe fluoride is safe in the drinking water, and the majority of dentists still believe it's safe to put in toothpaste and to put in different types of compounds.
Most people in America are persuaded that everybody fluoridates their water. If you're living in a town like Albany or Long Island or Ithaca or somewhere. But the vast majority of the population of the world does not drink fluoridated water. Most of the countries do not fluoridate the water. Only about 30.
The countries now that have banned the use of fluoride, China, Austria, Belgium, Finland, Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, Hungary, and Japan. All these countries have said that fluoride, number one, is ineffective and toxic and should not be used. We are still using it. There's something wrong here. I think it's time that we become aware and do something about it.
How come our country that's supposed to be, quote, so smart, uses it? Well, there's something going on here. What does the European Union know that we don't know? Nothing. Nothing. They know the same thing. That's why, but the difference is they're not getting paid off and we are. And so therefore, this is what the only thing I can come up with, because they both have the same facts. They both have the same facts. Fluoride is toxic. Fluoride is not helping your teeth. If it was really helping your teeth, why do we have all these dental problems? It's not at all. How come you can go to primitive societies around the world that never had even seen fluoride?
Sometimes wait on you, dog, and you're going to come or not.
Why are we having all these learning disorders? How come we're having autism? We're having
all I need is 2 people, and I got 2 people.
Well, why don't we ask that question and answer it honestly? Answer it honestly.
98% of Europe does not fluoridate. Only 8 countries in the world have more than 50% of their population drinking water. America, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, Israel, Singapore, Malaysia, and Colombia. Only 8.
I think Europeans have come to their senses on several issues, not all of them, but on many. GMOs being one of them, and fluoride being another. They've rejected these things because they're looking at the evidence. America tends to be way behind the curve on really recognizing reality in the realm of fraudulent hoax science.
Our CDC and the liars in Washington, D.C. have only had success in countries that speak English for the vast majority of the disposal of their hazardous waste product. That means that you and I and our children in the United States are the largest consumer of hydrofluosilicic acid. Call it what it is. Hydrofluosilicic acid. What is that? Hydro is water, fluo, fluoride, silicic, sand, and it's missing an electron. It's acidic. It'll kill you. You take your hand, dip it in like that, you're gonna die.
Hydrofluorosilicic acid does not occur in nature. It's a man-made molecule.
And it eats through concrete, glass, stainless steel, fiberglass, plastic, you name it, it'll eat it. So why are we putting that in the water? First, hazmat crews from all across our area responded to a chemical leak this afternoon in Rock Island. The chemical was so strong that it was burning through the concrete there. NewsA's Christy Mercantile has the latest.
It was just before 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon when hazmat crews were called to the Rock Island water treatment plant for a chemical spill coming from this tanker truck. The chemical hydrofluorosilicic acid is used to add fluoride to the plant's water. After several hours, crews were able to clean up the leak, allowing operations to return to normal.
They had to pull off the area, obviously, because the treatment of the water and the amount of water being used by the public, there's no something like that.
Now, that acid that did spill out is a chemical that they actually use every single day here at the water treatment plant. It adds fluoride to the water. Reporting live in Rock Island, Christy Mercantile, WQAD Quad Cities News 8.
That's how they transport it. It's extremely aggressive. It'll eat through almost anything, including concrete.
What is labeled fluoride is not naturally occurring fluoride like you might find in the ground. It's actually a collection. It can be over 100 different chemicals, including some radioactive chemicals, including many cancer-causing chemicals, including heavy metals, neurologically damaging elements that are called fluoride. And then this is dumped into the water supply, and the cities have doctors and dentists convinced that this is somehow good for your teeth. Fluoride is really a clever way for industry, the mining industry, chemical processing industries, aluminum smelting and processing industries, to eliminate their toxic industrial waste without having to pay for it to be handled as industrial waste. They just slap a new label on it, fluoride. They sell it to cities, and the cities dump it into the water supply.
Basically, it's a hazardous waste byproduct of the manufacture of phosphate fertilizer. It's a mining byproduct.
You dig up this rock. This rock is no good, as is. So you mix it with sulfuric acid, and this produces soluble phosphate. And that's what becomes the fertilizer.
It's a byproduct that they can't do anything with. It's a poison. So they sell it and make fluoride out of it.
It was a fraud. It was a scam from the get-go. It is a means of getting rid of fluoride. You allow industry to use your water supply to dispose of their hazardous waste. It's a disposal mechanism.
It's a major industrial waste plume. They were trying to dump it into the rivers that were going out into the ocean in Florida, and boy, they stopped that. It's polluting, killing the fish, which they were.
Oh, for 100 years, they decimated the local vegetation, crippled the cattle, damaged the citrus groves in Florida.
It was costing them a fortune to handle this as a very serious industrial waste.
And so they're helping Cargill get rid of their hazardous waste problem. Cargill is the largest privately owned corporation in the world. They were also the largest producer of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Cargill at one time had like 90% of market. When the hurricanes went through Florida, they knocked out the holding pond, so there was a shortage of hydrofluorosilicic acid. And so they reached out to the rest of the world, and now we got it from Mexico and Japan and China, because none of those countries allow fluoride in their water supply. They don't put it in at all. So obviously it's piling up in those countries. I don't think we need to be helping other countries out with their disposal of fluorosilicic acid.
Fluoridation is the worst recycling practice in the world. So I support recycling. But to take the hazardous waste from the phosphate fertilizer industry, which cannot be dumped into the sea by international law, and cannot be used locally because it's too concentrated, and to take that product and put it into our public drinking water is sheer lunacy. It's bizarre. I mean, George Orwell Kafka could have written this play. It's lunacy.
There are 250,000 tons dumped annually in the water supply. Does that sound like a big figure to you? If you had 1 ton and were worth over $1 million, you'd be a poor person by the time you got rid of that ton. It's extremely expensive to get rid of it.
Is there anybody that you know that might be willing to talk to us? Perhaps a whistleblower, somebody who's been injured, or
Yeah, the guy wrote a book, Toxic Torts, the tell-all book about the phosphate fertilizer industry. Gary Pittman. He'll tell you the story.
so Louisiana.
Florida. That's where all the phosphate mines are in the United States.
Right. Oh, looks like we're going to Florida, buddy.
When I first started working at the Occidental Chemical Corporation's chemical plants in the early 1970s, there was no safety program in place. The only equipment you had to wear was a hard hat and safety glasses, and we didn't wear the safety glasses half the time because it wasn't enforced. The environment was very dirty. The air was filled with dust and toxic fumes. We worked 8, 12 hours a day, sometimes longer, sometimes double shifts, in those conditions. When you're 18, you think you're invincible. Got a physical by their doctor, and he actually put on my application a perfect health specimen. Mistakenly, you tend to believe that somehow you're invincible and blindly step into harm's way without a thought about the future consequences. I started working there when I was 18. I was in excellent health. I quickly rose to a supervisory position and was making about $50,000 a year. However, my success came at a high price, my health and well-being. My first and last job was working for Occidental Chemical Company in the phosphoric acid plants in Hamilton County, Florida.
Gary, what made you write this book?
I wanted to leave history behind on what happened to me and some of the co-workers here in this county. It kind of gives the inside look at a phosphate plant, mainly the chemical plant where phosphoric acid is made.
Former employees of Occidental Chemical Corporation have filed a lawsuit against the company. They say they have life-threatening diseases because the company did not follow safety procedures.
Paige, they have diseases like leukemia, emphysema, and toxic brain syndrome. For years, doctors struggled to diagnose them, but finally they found a common link. It was the phosphate plant they all worked for. Gary and several other former employees are suing Occidental for failing to provide adequate safety education and gear. One woman's husband died of bone cancer before his battle could make it to court.
They messed up my life. They messed up everybody's life, and they're continuing to mess up other people's lives. They need to come in and realize and admit to what they are doing.
When Gary Pittman filed a lawsuit against Occidental Chemical Company, he knew what he was getting into. Occidental was a mammoth organization and no stranger to litigation. It was Occidental that had been responsible for one of the most horrendous environmental tragedies in American history, the Love Canal.
President Carter declared a state of emergency today in the Love Canal area of New York's Niagara Falls, where toxic chemicals were discovered oozing from the ground.
My 3 kids were born with birth defects, and my wife's had cancer.
This was a site that literally is best described. Orange goop, toxic soup is what it has been referred to. 80 different chemicals.
All right, Angela.
Very bad stuff. Backyards is literally seeping into the basements.
Health officials are urging more families to move, but that's not as simple as it seems. Between the years of 1947 and 1953, the Hooker Chemical Corporation, which is a subsidiary of Occidental Chemical, used the Love Canal section of Niagara Falls as a dumping site for toxic waste.
Today, we write the final chapter of the environmental disaster called Love Canal.
Do you want to fly a jet or something, Angela? Or do you want to fly that plane now?
They should and they will be held responsible for cleaning up their mess.
The EPA concluded that Occidental dumped millions of tons of hazardous chemicals and then sold the company to the Niagara Falls School District.
So I'll just fly around. I got this.
But
I'm laying that plane so I finish taking care of all the soldiers. I'm gonna knock everybody off. Got my character key. You're gonna get $50,000 off this. See all that rushing. See y'all kids. See, y'all wasn't kids. You gotta understand patience is a virtue. Up here on the right, we're going to have demonstration offices. We used to eat pantyhose off the women's legs. So to whom it may concern, I work for the above named company. I was doing chemicals down in Black Springs, Florida, 1968 and part of 1969. Our accounting department was located in the admin building, which at that time was located in the chemical. In the morning, we employees would get out of our vehicle when pantyhose would dissolve off of our legs. It was explained to us that the chemical fallout, not the word. Our boss, who was a little girl with $1, get us another pair of pantyhose. Chemicals also were small tip holes contained in our vehicle. Years later, they moved the admin building away from the chemical plant down off the road.
recycled toxic water up there in this pond, out there. In addition to that, they're taking fresh water too.
Of course, they use a lot of fresh water because, see, this is the main thing that they don't want you to know is what they call the water balance. It just makes them nervous if you start talking about water balance. What do they add back when they need water if it's leaky? Right? It's going away. So they have to add some fresh water to keep the process going. Right? The phosphate industry uses more fresh water than any other industry in the state of Florida. And sometimes they have to release water out of those toxic ponds. What do they put it? They put it in the creeks and it runs into the Swanee River. Now what they do to it is lime it to bring the pH up so it don't kill the fish immediately. The Swanee River, they claim, is a pristine waterway. But if you ask the Fresh and Game Water Commission in Florida, they'll tell you not to eat over one fish out of that river a month because of lead, mercury, cadmium. They won't tell you that. That's why. This is just a lot of the documentation through the years. What really caught my eye, like we had talked about earlier, the 1972 through 1979 misrepresented environmental data. And they charged $575,000 for emitting 10 times the amount of law. I was working there when that was going on, just months away. It fit the glass on the windshield, making some foggy extra glass.
Just having your car parked out there like that. I mean, back in the 60s, you know, even earlier they realized that those fuels were
very toxic.
Very toxic.
The phosphate company pretty much believes in themselves. They have their own crew do this digestion, all the other environmental things. And that's kind of like the thought watcher. I have been involved where they would do up to testing. And then they tell us something wrong as far as faith. And that's when you look down, find the problem straight down. The boy got to do it on test. I have also been at the point where we could find out wrong, do it on test, and we just go over blind in the fume part to allow more fresh air to rush. So it was a joint mission.
The city of Dallas, Texas, like many cities across the nation, spends millions of dollars on contracts with companies like Cargill, Mosaic, and Pinnacle to fluoridate the region's water supply. On Mosaic's website, the product listed for use in water fluoridation is actually called nitrofluorosilicate. The observation is a U.S. agency that requires companies to produce a material presentation or MSDS for every chemical product development. The MSDS that Mosaic produces for the fluoride product will make your hair stand on end.
right here I have the mosaic material safety data sheet on your hydrofluorosilicic acid. A material safety data sheet is a very important document to disclose the safety and health issues that may be possible exposure to this chemical. And this issue is supposed to inform you about what is the what's so that in the case of you say your hydrofluorosilicic acid is that it is not a pharmaceutical grade, but it is an extreme grade chemical. And under section 2 has an identification that identifies the compound as being corrosive to the skin, the eyes, and the lipid membranes that can come in contact with it through the skin or inhalation or ingestion, such as swallowing, that may cause severe irritation and burns. And so on the second page, it identifies potential consequences. Things that are explosive to the eye, explosive to the skin, explosive to the inhalation, if you breathe it, explosive if you swallow it. And therefore, you're basically giving these health effects due to hydrofluoric acid concentration if not heard at the concentration of this drug.
So they've now put a warning in the natural data sheet saying fluorosis, osteosclerosis, if exposure occurs during immunization. There are no children working with chemicals, so these children don't have chemicals. So this warning is for the common user. And so we presented this to the city council, and they have now been alerted that they're a new supplier and have put a warning. And this is where we came across and said, we now need to put a warning, at least for children that you've received when you were supplying them with chemical industry. So we have to put that.
Hydrofluoric acid has no known benefit in any human or any physiological system. It's not even useful in any animal. So adding that to the public water supply for alleged benefit is a fraud, and it's trying to get specifically to this country, and it's crippling over your lifetime. It's a very noxious poison. And you do not have to take my word for it. If you've got a Webster's dictionary, open it up. One of the definitions is fluoride, a violent protoplasmic poison. Then you have to look up protoplasm. Real protoplasm. So, violent protoplasm. Hey, let's put that in the water and see how the kids turn out.
You know, as we're learning, it seems like there are no real risks. It just seems there's no risks.
It's big loss. There's no benefit whatsoever. It's all risk.
Let's get to the science. That's what I say. Instead of covering it up, let's look at the science. What do these fluoride chemicals actually do to human nature?
There's all kinds of research out there showing it really disturbs the function of the body in a weird way. Inactivates the P2 enzymes, increases the aging process, increases the incidence of cancers and tumors up to 75%, disrupts the immune system, causes genetic aging, interrupts RNA and DNA repair enzyme activity, indicates arthritis, and is a system poison. These are all validated by scientific data.
We have in there, they all do something. The
fluoride is one of the most powerful poisons that is routinely used in medicine. The pineal gland is actually located in the center of the brain, and it secretes two hormones, DHT and melatonin. Melatonin actually regulates sleep cycles and is kind of like a feel-good hormone, which also helps regulate your puberty, and it helps regulate all your hormones inside your system. Pineal gland to me is so important because it's being regarded as like the third eye, and even in Egyptian times called forehead. They call it the pineal gland because it kind of resembles a pine cone. And if you look at the graph of the profile, it has pine cones. If you look at cells in the anatomy, and throughout history, you'll see that the pine cones will be similar showing of the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland is also regarded in some religions as the seat of the soul, or the gateway to connection to God. If you know that the pineal gland is the consciousness of the human, and that could be your connection to God, why not take it out? And the fastest and easiest way to take out the pineal gland is to calcify the pineal gland, which is fluoride, because fluoride has the ability for those areas of the body that produce calcium and calcium.
Some of it indicates that fluoride may not affect the microbiome. Could be a completely different effect.
In 1997, Jennifer Leach published a PhD thesis on fluoride in the pineal gland.
In her dissertation, she conducted animal studies and found that on every human similar findings have been reported in two other physiological studies of human populations that include fluoride. The first study was conducted in 1945 during the inclusive fluoridation test. It was specifically dose of fluoridated ether and reaching menstruation on average 5 times higher than the dose of unfluoridated ether. Though it was not published in 1983, another study was conducted with a non-biological program reported that girls living in highly fluoridated towns began their first menstruation cycle at a much younger age compared to the rest.
When the pineal gland is calcified, it causes an unfluoridated in the ejaculation triple negative. When it gets raised from there in front of the cell, 90 years still, it can increase now. Her dad was only 20 years old. He started to handle like this and training. He can't put his hands above the tail. The calcification of the pineal gland is an adaptive process to stretch out from her baby by the time she's 14 because she's going to
Fluoride's role in early acute needs more thorough investigation. When one continues to seriously growing child highly latent, it underlines the negative and dangerous effects of fluoridation.
The gold standard method, we have more fluoride in the motor. Look at the snap. You ever wonder how come everybody has hip replacements, knee replacements, and then you can go on and on. Look at things that what it does once it fills up the fluoride, you get little spikes on the outside of the bone. If you take a hand or take a bone and run your hand up and down a normal bone, you smack. That's because muscles move around on the bone. When you're running, you're jogging, or you're lifting weights, you know, on something, muscles are moving around on the bone. And stuff will make it hurt. Well, if you make that bone the texture with sandpaper, then when the muscle moves around, the factor tears, and it hurts the nerve. And so fluoride accumulates in calcium species of bone, ligament, artery, joint, and teeth. So you have to look at this as you have a lifetime on it. And the less you're exposed to, the longer you can go before you develop cancer. The first most really curable thing is exposure to pain. And that's what we saw in my wife and I every time. And pain was hugely significant symptoms that they all had to kidney disease. And, you know, China can look at the heart.
Have you ever heard of dentist or
The fuck was that?
They say 51% of American teenagers have.
Oh, that's some bullshit. Whatever the fuck that was. I don't know what that was.
Streaks of anime.
So you learned that early on, man.
I knew, yes, those teeth are very brittle, and so I have cavities more frequently in those teeth than
Make you see a white teeth. And that doesn't make the calcium from the fluoride. I had really good home to start with. Still have too.
If there was a tremendous benefit, you ought to be able to see that, and it doesn't show up at all in the computer data. So
That's a waste of time. I ain't really doing that no more.
There is a recent lawsuit in Maryland. It's a federal lawsuit. A woman who believed the medical establishment at the time when her daughter was an infant. She gave her daughter 90% of her diet, intake of water was fluoridated baby water. So the daughter grew up with severe fluorosis, and to get that corrected through the restoration stuff, so they are suing Nestle and Gerber.
So putting it in a baby bottle when the child doesn't have any visible teeth, there's no way on God-free earth that can have anything except a negative impact on that child. It will damage that baby's teeth.
But they sell it in the grocery store as baby's first water.
Yep.
I've seen that for years. How do we
educate women to not buy this for their babies. And this is why we wanted to warn parents, because they're the most at risk. They drink their weight in water within 2 or 3 days. If you and I did that, we'd be drinking 22 liters a day.
I mean, it just goes back to all these regulatory agencies that are supposed to, kind of looking out for our best interests. But they're not.
Yep, they with the pharmaceutical companies. They with the motherfucking big bank, big business.
It's a crime. I hope they're trying it someday.
I say they have a duty to warn. They have a duty to warn you. Not one manufacturer of formula says, by the way, don't use the tap water. Women, infant, and children, WIC program. We contacted them. They refused to tell mothers not to use the tap water. You know what she said? It would damage the fluoridation program.
The fluoridation program.
Fluoride is safe and effective, and it's one of the most inexpensive ways to really cut down on dental decay. Fluoride is safe and effective. Fluoride is safe. Fluoride is safe and effective.
Well, there's a study from 20 years ago showing infant mortality was higher in fluoridated communities. Is that why? I don't know. Why didn't they do a follow-up study? I think that would be interesting to know.
Children have died, There's been a case of a child who swallowed this. The dentist left the room. The parents didn't know. The kid swallowed it. Had to be rushed to hospital. They couldn't save him. He died. So yeah, it's very toxic substance. There's no question about that.
Is that the kind of stuff that a responsible parent would be putting in their child's hand? FDA in 1997 required manufacturers of toothpaste to put this warning label on it. The same as you'd have on a loaded .38 caliber pistol. Keep out of reach of children.
Toothpaste.
And only use a pea-sized amount, which is about the same amount that would be in a bottle of water. And if that amount is swallowed, call the Poison Control Center or seek professional help immediately. So if I drink a bottle of water, should I call the Poison Control Center too? This is just insane. So this is what two different organizations say. One says, don't swallow it. Why did they put that on there? They put that on there because there were 10,000 calls a year to the Poison Control Centers from children made ill by swallowed toothpaste. 10,000 calls, and for every call, there's 5 that didn't call. And there are only the Poison Control Centers in half the states. So that means 100,000 children are made ill by swallowed toothpaste. It's insane to put a deadly poison in a child's hand and say, go brush and be sure and spit out, Johnny.
Fluoride has been a slow process of introduction into the dental profession where it's commonplace for us to consider fluoride as the thing to do to help decay. We now know, statistics have shown us that fluoride is not working. It's very toxic to you and can cause everything from cancer to depression. So, yeah, it's a serious issue.
You are meant to have the right to informed consent to medication. What we're doing with the fluoridated community is we're doing to everyone what a doctor can do to no one. A doctor says to you, look, this glass of water is going to do wonderful things for you. It's going to cure your ingrowing toenails. It's going to make you less bald. It's going to do X, Y, and Z. Drink it. And you say, no, I don't want to drink it. You must drink it. You've got to drink it. I'm your doctor. I'm telling you, you've got to drink it. If he or she tried to do that to you, he or she could lose their license. You're not. You've got to tell the patient what the drug is good for.
Yep.
You've got to tell them what is bad for side effects. And then they,
Get the
theory,
choice.
make up their mind.
Make up their
This
mind.
has been ripped away from them.
Yeah, it's been ripped away from us. They lies. The doctors are lying. They're straight up lying to line their pockets. That's the other reason why they banned my ass too now. Because I be talking about what the motherfucking doctors doing. And that's some bullshit too.
This is the only thing anywhere in the world that gets added to the municipal drinking waters to actually treat the human.
Well, every time you see the letters FLUO, you're talking fluoride.
And so when you start realizing that Prozac is a fluoride product, Zoloft is a fluoride product, virtually all of your psychotropic drugs, almost all of those that are mood elevators. And one of the reasons being is because it has this tremendous capacity to affect serotonin. Serotonin being the chemical that goes from one neuron to the other brain neuron. And so when we looked at the selective serotonin reuptake and basically an inhibition of the serotonin being taken out, that's the fluoride that's now.
Prozac is fluoxetine. It's a fluorinated psychoactive. As a matter of fact, almost all of your psychoactive drugs are fluorinated drugs. They put it in there both as a carrier and an accelerator of the effect.
The actual active ingredient in Prozac is fluoride.
Prozac is made almost entirely from fluoride molecules. It is, like SSRI drugs, are similar molecularly.
Call my phones is up in my ass.
The school shootings in Columbine, Colorado, they were on SSRI drugs. Those drugs make your mind think that you're not living in the real world, that you're actually sort of experiencing a false reality. And I think fluoride has much the same effect.
There's tons of products that are pharmaceutical products that, in some cases, the fluoride is just being used to what I call potentiate it, to actually make it a stronger one. Fen-Phen, which was the diet drug that was taken off the. Well, why did they take it off? Well, fenfluramine, and you hear the fluoride part in there. The fenfluramine was the part that actually made the thickening of the heart valve.
Fluoride.
So that they pulled off. The amazing part about it is Rohypnol, the day rape drug. A lot of people just call it that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, roofie.
Roofie.
Yeah, and so what does that roofie do? Basically, it causes an anterograde amnesia. Well, okay, that's a fluoride product, so how does it do that? Well, we probably should have guessed it would do that already anyway. Because if you went in and had surgery, general surgery right now, not going to look if you don't have to do that, but if you would, it would give you 4 molecules of fluorine and 2 of chlorine and 1 of chlorine, and that's what knocks you out during that time. So the truth is that when you start looking at all the pharmaceutical uses for it, that it's just amazing all the things that have been that are around us all the time that we didn't recognize or that we didn't see.
There is absolutely no drug on the market that's given in a one-dose-fits-all situation.
We don't put other things in the water to try to keep everybody's blood pressure down or everybody's stroke risk down. And there's no reason why we should be trying a one-size-fits-all approach for this either.
Once you put a medicine in the drinking water, you can't control the dose, because you can't control how much water people drink. You can't control it goes to everybody. If you ask a pharmacist if there's any drug in his store that was safe enough to give to everyone, young people, old people, sick people, people with poor nutrition, give it to them in any dose, they'd laugh at you. It's ridiculous.
There's no way you can give out a medicine without being able to control the dose. And one dose cannot fit all, and you can't give a medicine to everyone.
Hey, we ain't bitching about this.
People who don't want it. There are people in this audience who've spent far more time researching this issue, including David, myself, and many other people in this audience, and they've stated categorically to the mayor, to the city councillors, we do not want you to force this medicine on us. We have the right to informed consent to medication. That's a very important right. This is a violation. It's being violated every day in this country to over 200 million people.
There needs to be informed consent. We have that with all other medications. When we go to the doctor, he or she gives us the information on what the side effects are.
Class action lawsuit. Class action lawsuit. We as the people need to be suing our government. Suing our government, suing IRS for taking our taxes, and our government ain't doing what they supposed to do with the people's money. We need to be suing motherfuckers and using these motherfucking lawyers to do their motherfucking jobs. The job is to sue motherfuckers. See, that is it. Only motherfucking rich motherfuckers can use motherfucking lawyers. Poor motherfuckers can't afford those liars to be their lawyer. Bunch of bullshit.
It's not like, well, I cut myself, so now I'm renewing myself. It doesn't happen to the neurons.
There are so many ways where fluoride could be damaging the brain. We know this from animal studies.
Dr. Phyllis Mullinix exposed rats to fluoride to work out its effects on the human brain and the central nervous system.
What we did was we exposed them, let them drink the fluoride in the water for 6 to 20 weeks. The pattern that we saw typically is what we see with other neurotoxic agents that are well known to cause a hyperactivity or a memory problem.
Now you see why your children act so fucked up? Because the water fucked up, because the air fucked up, because the ground fucked up, because the food fucked up. It's everything fucked up because of us. The fucking stupid ass sheeple people listen to these rich motherfuckers rule us around like we fucking cattle and then kill us at fucking will. And look at us. We ain't doing no motherfucking better. We can't get along in the motherfucking game. Better along get along in motherfucking life. It's some bullshit.
And they included Dr. James Sumner, who won the Nobel Prize for enzyme chemistry at Cornell, and he said, fluoride poisons enzymes. You don't want to put this substance into the body. Poisoning enzymes is what makes people sick. Poisoning enzymes is what kills people.
It's highly likely that you're going to get subtle effects on the brain, but the parent is not going to notice.
No wonder that our children can't read and write. It's no wonder because we're damaging their brains with stupid preventive ministry program that doesn't even work.
We have behavioral studies.
Somebody see my, give me a lawyer.
24 IQ studies, 24 studies, which now show an association between fairly modest exposure to fluoride and lowered IQ.
They've actually got it down to 1 milligram dose of fluoride causes a 0.59 loss in IQ points. The average IQ is 100. So if you're 95, you're in the back of the class napping because you can't understand what the person in the front is saying. And you're going to get a nice job pushing the broom around. So what if you got like that dose? Okay, you're down to 90. So what they showed in studies in other countries is that you lose all your genius out of your society.
Yep.
You damage the intellect.
But new research from China supports Dr. Mullenex's conclusion that fluoride affects mental development and IQ levels.
I've heard a great deal about a chemical that can be used on the teeth to help prevent decay. Is that a good thing to know?
It certainly is. We use a fluoride solution, and we have evidence that for some people...
50 years ago, American government scientists had clinical evidence that fluoride affected the central nervous system. But all this was kept secret.
Chemical? You're going to put some chemical in my mouth?
All mention of the effects of fluoride on the central nervous system has stopped.
In my view, fluoride is where lead was in the early 70s. That argument lasted about 10 years, and it was finally proven that, yes, low levels of lead, lower than cause visible symptoms, was in fact damaging a child's mental development. I think the same thing that we're going to find with fluoride.
As someone who has gotten off of fluoride, I can tell that my thought processes and my concentration is poor.
And so when you damage the IQ for children, you lose your place in the country as a leader, and we have. And that's because of the damage that our government has allowed to happen to the intelligence of our children.
If there wasn't research out there that's shown conclusively that it affects the brain, the nerve, that it affects the immune system, that it affects the bone, and it is incorporated into your body, fluoride bonding is strong. You get something fluoride bonded, it's not easy to get it off. Well, what's going on?
Fluoride is now in thousands, and I really mean thousands of products where it has worked its way in, and I don't understand why.
I had a good friend of mine come up to me one day when I still lived in the valley. He says, Karen, he says, look, there's fluoride in Cocoa Pops, and there's fluoride in Fruit Loops, and there's, I'm going, what? What the heck is it doing? And that stuff.
They have to put
Operate in a lot of cases because of fluorinated compounds.
Sadly, the dentists have begun to add fluoride to their filling materials, their cement, they even put a varnish on children's teeth. I don't believe these have been legitimately FDA approved. I've checked on them. There's no new drug applications on file for fluoride to be ingested, and none have been submitted. So if you're going to give a child a dose of fluoride, show me the FDA approval where that's beneficial and even safe. It doesn't exist.
The medical system that tries to say we should ingest fluoride, that's really the only element they believe in. They won't recommend magnesium when they do hard pass. They won't recommend calcium. They won't recommend zinc for immune boosting function. They only believe in one element, and that's chlorine. You know, how come they don't look at the other elements that are needed? That's why it's very selective as a thought. There is no selenium waste product that they have to get rid of. That's why they don't care about the benefits of selenium from industry. But selenium is an anti-cancer element, and most people are deficient in it. You know, chromium, trace elements for blood sugar regulation. Most people are deficient in it. Why don't doctors and scientists say, let's put chromium in the water? Because they're not trying to get rid of it in a toxic way. That's why. You know, if you look at the table of elements, you got to consider the whole thing. It's not scientific to say, well, let's just put this one element in the water. What about all the others? Water fluoridation is a hoax. It's not scientific. It's not good medicine. It's not public health policy. It's a desperate attempt by certain industries to eliminate a toxic poison by feeding it to the people and calling it public health. I mean, it's clearly waste disposal.
It comes down to this?
Yeah, the government's paying 35 dentists and the Center for Disease Control to go out and promote the addition of silicone fluoride in public drinking water. So it's making a lot of people who can't do dentistry money. Where money and power are is a magnet to criminals. And so Washington, D.C. becomes a vortex of evil.
And I'll tell you, when you're controlled by a few people, which is the government, who controls the government? Money. Big money.
And if they're about money, then we have a conflict of interest. We want our children to grow up healthy and strong, and they want to make profit.
There are solutions out there. There are answers to this. There's ways to get around and possibly clean up your system. What can we do?
The best thing you can do is look at what the body's made of, which is water. Every living substance is composed of water. You know, people ask me, what's the easiest, simplest way to start regaining my health? I say, change the water. When you start flooding your body with water, you have no access to anything else, no supplements, and eating clean foods, which would mean raw, organic fruits and vegetables. And if you have access to superfoods, which would be like chlorella, spirulina, blue-green algae, stuff like that, I still think that distilled water is the best. I recommend adding organic apple cider vinegar to their distilled water, because what it does is it brings it back to life. You know, when you distill water, you lose all the minerals in it. You know, it's a clean water, but it's not an active live water. So what I do and what I recommend, you can get it, distill it for $300 or $400, and run your tap water right through the distillation unit and fill up your 5-gallon water containers. And then every time that you fill it up, put a little cap full of organic apple cider vinegar in there, the raw kind, and then you're getting vital nutrients, live enzymes, probiotics, and it's just one of the cheapest, most effective ways to regain your health, or to just, you know, give you a lot of good, active, live nutrients that brings the water back to life.
But the big problem is, you can get the best water in the world to drink and cook with. But what do you do about your water?
In fact, I would even say don't shower with tap water. That's so toxic that, look, where I live now, I'm drinking and showering in either rainwater or well water.
We have the ability financially to purchase these filters and these purification systems. It is the most important investment you can make for your family. You really need to invest in yourself, in your food, in what you're drinking, in more than you are your clothes or your electronics or your car. It is essential.
When you accumulate all these chemicals in your body, you have to do something to get rid of them.
The antidote to fluoride poisoning is calcium, magnesium, vitamin C, selenium, and iodine.
And you can get rid of it with perspiration, which is sauna. You can get rid of it by drinking more water and having it go out through urine.
The right diet can bind to those elements and help clear them out.
I'm not drinking any more water with fluoride. I'm not eating foods with fluoride. I'm not cooking my pasta rice soups with the fluoridated water. So I completely took it out of my diet.
Considering the fact that fluoride toxicity has become a huge problem, I kind of teamed up with Alex Jones and his staff over there, and I was asked, what can we do? There's no product on the market that targets specifically fluoride detoxification and fluoride cleansing. So I was asked to put something together that would do that. It's really a combination of 6 of the most potent compounds we could find, working together in unison to help you eliminate or detoxify fluoride from your system on a regular basis. This product is something that people can take on a daily basis or take on a weekly basis or take to help their body naturally eliminate fluoride from their system.
There are 2 strategies for mitigating fluoride. One is that you can have the citizens, protest, go to city council meetings, rise up against the chemical tyrant.
and demand clean water. Just demand clean water. That's it.
That's what I'm saying. I've been saying that.
Something like this instead of just turning them around.
Yeah, fuck, we just demand clean water.
Wrongdoing. But they just pass it back. Let somebody else take care of it.
So I imagine you're kind of going to be the Lone Ranger standing up and saying, I don't want my water medicated anymore.
We should be calling our congressmen and trying to say, hey, you know,
What are you doing out there? What are you doing around the well? That's our water.
I should have to choose if I want fluoride in my water. Why am I demanded that I have to have fluoride in my water?
If enough people will contact their legislators, contact them either through phone calls, through snail mail. I mean, if they get enough of that on a particular issue, by golly, they do set up and take notice.
Go there and bitch, because that's your public servant, okay? Last time I checked, they work for you.
You gotta get...
Yeah, time to check, yep. The motherfuckers do work for us. Motherfucking people.
You got to get a lot of people angry enough that they'll go out and stand in the rain and tell the city council that they're not going to get reelected if they don't do what we tell them.
They're not going to keep their seat if they continue to poison our water. If you follow the democratic process, then this issue has already been solved.
Unite, and let's make it happen, because that's, I was thinking about it today, and I'll just wrap it first, but I was thinking about it today because I knew you were coming over, and I just sat there and I literally just prayed to God. And I said, God, I don't know what, there's got to be a way. Open up a way that we can help this nation and the world get its health back. And let health be the #1 priority, and profits is next. Not profits over health. And let's let people get the truth.
This is all about us taking our world back.
It's the time to scream louder, to be bolder, and to show that
Stop being
we cannot be
sheeple.
It's time that the people stand up, the silent majority, for their health.
Get it out of your community. And then you can drink the water at home, you can drink the water in your office, you can drink the water in the restaurants and friends' houses. So you don't have to worry anymore.
The alleged reason for adding fluoride to the public water supply is to reduce tooth decay. But tooth decay isn't caused by the deficiency of fluoride. It's caused because there's scum on the teeth and bad diet. So the real solution is to take something like a nice toothbrush that was invented by C.C. Bass, cram it in the gums, and knock the scum off. So if you really wanted to reduce tooth decay, you'd make sure that every child had a big handful of toothbrushes and knew how to use them. And you dig all the scum off the gums, because it's scum living on the teeth that causes tooth decay. I don't want to poison this scum. I want to scrub it off the teeth and then not feed it. So you don't give it sugar, white flour, and bad food, processed food. You give it good food. Then you will have wonderful teeth and abundant good health.
Is there hope? There's always hope. I mean, that's what I tell everybody. Even when I had cancer patients, I always say, listen, there's always hope. When you feel healthy, you feel self-confident. And when you feel self-confident, you feel successful. So regardless of how bad things are, you can never lose hope. I mean, you always have to know that there's always change and there's always things you can do. Even if you do one tiny thing every single day, you're still positively changing. And if you tell one person, or if you pass an email out, or you share information, once we hit critical point, which we're almost at, it's like the 100th monkey phenomenon. The mass consciousness will change. And I believe we're almost there. So never give up. And always, no matter what, never give up hope. Because that's what you have.
I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're such a sweet, sweet soul. Again, Charlie, thank you so much for letting us come by here today.
I would just like to say, great speech, man.
Thank you for all your work you've done over the years and your discoveries and your journey and your just everything. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Makes you too.
You're the man.
Okay,
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been a treat.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm hoping that this will get the message to more and more people.
No, this is fantastic. It's going to be a great educational tool, and we appreciate you being here. And thank you so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
You guys are incredibly powerful, and I want to say thank you for what you're doing for all of us.
I really wish this project the greatest success. People need to hear this message from all of those that have interviewed. This is powerful information, and I imagine that in 50 years people will be watching this. So DVDs will survive. Yeah.
I just got the chills.
And they'll be watching this, and they'll look back and say, there were some filmmakers who did know what they were covering, who weren't willing to just sell out and do some explosions and on-screen sex and this and that. They actually had a message for humanity. That's what you guys are doing.
that they pay for, and so they are the livelihood of the journals. That's how they get published.
Medical journals are completely supported by the ads from drug companies. The ads, the journals who went their way.
Doctors look to scientific publications as the objective source. It comes from this university, this research being done by these, highly revered, very well-respected leaders in my industry. If I can't trust them, I mean, it's doctor to doctor. I'm not listening to the sales rep. That's different. It's doctor to doctor. I'm listening to the big guy. And, they take note of that process. The scientific literature now, you just can't trust it.
Today, between 2/3 and 3/4 of all clinical trials published in major journals are funded by drug companies. And to influence prescribers even more effectively, drug companies will give as much as $1 million to journals for reprints of favorable trials they can later use as objective-looking marketing tools. But the pharmaceutical funding of psychiatry goes beyond even this, until years of pressure finally forced a recent promise to change. The APA's national conference was largely underwritten by drug companies, as were its government lobbying efforts. But old habits die hard. At a recent APA convention, the drug companies were there, handing out food and giving psychiatrists promotional lectures called product theaters.
And they get the vast majority of their funding for their associations, for the meetings, for everything from the pharmaceutical industry. So promoting pharmaceuticals is basically the options that they have.
With psychiatrists already enthusiastically spreading the pharmaceutical gospel to the rest of the medical field, drug companies also attack prescribing physicians on another front, using armies of drug company sales representatives.
We always do a full frontal control. We always came in our product spec. Product spec, our product spec. Are you going to write it? Are you going to write it? You know, write scripts. It was kind of our mentality.
My job and my pay was based solely on my ability to push drugs through my territory. So if I wasn't moving enough prescriptions, if I wasn't moving enough pills through my territory, I was at risk of being fired, and on a lesser level, I wasn't making the bottom line.
The bottom line for you was, it was a business, you got paid, and you had to get as many prescriptions as you needed. That doctor was right, and you did it however you could.
One way to get people onto psychotropic drugs is through free samples. These are not provided by psychotropic drug makers out of a sense of charity. They are intended to get the patient onto a drug regimen he cannot get off of.
Samples sitting on a shelf encourages the doctor to give that drug away and then to write an accompanying prescription for that, which will be later filled at the pharmacy.
And that's what doctors wanted, to be able to not only have the samples, but give them to their friends, their family, lots to the patients, because they know if they give the samples, you had a higher incidence of being able to prescribe, the doctors would prescribe your product.
You're getting the physician comfortable with the drug, and you're getting the consumer comfortable with the drug. So let's say when the trial's over and the free drug's gone, the trial, what's the doctor going to do? Is he going to write a prescription of another product? Not if the patient's doing fine. You never want to lock the door.
The industry and the companies fully understand that if you can get those drug samples into a doctor's hands, you're going to be able to get prescriptions out of that doctor. They're actually a very effective marketing tool, and there's quite a large percentage of the market budget that goes into the distribution of samples.
In 2003, pharmaceutical sales reps handed out $16.4 million worth of free samples. And to sell them even more easily, sales reps have another hidden weapon: prescribing information bought from pharmacies by prescription tracking companies.
You can get a list with like Dr. XYZ, Prozac, Zoloft, Access, Alexa. And it'll tell you how many scripts, give or take, let's say 10, per month or per week, that physician was writing of those products.
So we knew everything about our doctors. Which ones were the most valuable, which ones to spend the most time on, and what we needed to do, and where their weak spots were.
So it was very valuable in that you frequently, as the sales rep, knew better what the doctor was actually doing than the doctor did himself, because he wasn't tracking his own prescriptions.
The drug industry now spends $22 billion a year marketing to doctors to increase prescriptions, an astonishing 90% of its marketing budget. And this investment has paid off. Today, psychotropic drugs are a multi-billion-dollar business, with over 2/3 prescribed by general physicians. But psychiatrists are the ones at the forefront, spreading the word. And when the use of psychotropic drugs is questioned or gets bad publicity, paid psychiatric opinion leaders deflect attacks and discredit critics. Or they may simply use their position to make the problem all go away. Case in point, psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Casey, chairman of the first FDA advisory committee that met in 1991 to decide if a warning label about increased risk of suicide should be added to the label of Prozac. At the case, family member after family member came forward to show how Prozac had damaged their children and loved ones. In the end, however, Dr. Casey and his colleagues voted against the label, citing a lack of evidence. But what many at the hearing did not know is that 5 people sitting on that 9-member panel had significant financial ties to drug companies. Casey himself became chairman of an FDA advisory panel that voted to approve another antidepressant, Zoloft, later that same year, and soon became one of Zoloft's most sought-after speakers. But the corruption goes beyond even psychiatrists at the FDA. Directors of major psychiatric institutions are likewise paid handsomely by pharmaceutical companies, such as the deputy director of the New York Psychiatric Institute, who one year received $140,000. Even government agencies are not immune from conflict of interest. In 2006, the state of Texas sued drug maker Janssen for flying the state's own mental health officials to other states throughout the nation to promote its drug Risperdal, including work perks, travel expenses, and speaking fees. Even at the federal level, the chief of geriatric psychiatry at the U.S. National Institute of Mental Health was convicted that same year for accepting and failing to disclose over $250,000 from drug companies in exchange for consultations, retainer fees, and travel expenses. The result of these pharmaceutical paid doctor education campaigns is an explosion in psychotropic drug prescriptions, not just written by doctors, but by many others.
I know some practitioners start people on drugs, on the antidepressants. There's unfortunately, a nurse practitioner that does it, and she's not supposed to. It's not in her protocol. Another nurse practitioner I work with has told me that she keeps doing it.
It's gotten to the point where you have nurse practitioners, physician's assistants. There are times when that child doesn't even see a doctor. And we're seeing these prescriptions written for, and at best, the doctor may sign off on the bottom of that prescription.
Medical professionals worldwide are handing out psychotropic drugs in seemingly few quantities because they have been assured that they are safe and necessary by the experts in the field. Psychiatrists speak.
Psychiatric communities completely responsible for the widespread use of psychotropic drugs. They're the ones writing the scripts to a large extent, and they're the ones that are proclaiming their supposed beneficial effects. And I think they're sketchy. The evidence isn't good, and the side effects are poor.
The psychiatrists are the facilitator of the diseases, and therefore the prescriptions.
Today, even official psychiatric organizations do not contest that the partnership between psychiatry and pharmaceutical companies in promoting psychotropic drugs to doctors is significant and almost impossible to avoid. But early on, this partnership realized that promoting to doctors was not enough. How could they reach their target demographic, the end user, and drive them into doctors' offices to demand these drugs? In the mid-1970s, Henry Gadsden, head of Merck, one of the world's largest drug corporations, told Fortune magazine that he wanted his company to be more like chewing gum maker Wrigley's and sell to everyone, even healthy people. Has Gadsden's dream come true? Is marketing now driving the machinery of one of the most profitable industries on earth? Are psychotropic drugs really being marketed like chewing gum? Psychotropic drugs are marketed on two fronts. The first is through sales campaigns aimed at doctors, psychiatrists, and other prescribers. And on the second front, the drugs are promoted heavily to consumers. Youth. Until recently, however, it was rare to see a drug advertisement on television because, by law, drug companies had to list all side effects, a list far too long for a 30 or 60-second spot. But in 1997, drug company lobbyists pressured the U.S. Congress to relax this rule and allow them to mention only some of the side effects. With this simple change, advertising psychotropic drugs on American television suddenly became popular. And this opened the floodgates to a torrent of advertising, which soared from $595 million a year in 1996 to $4.7 billion today, an increase of almost 700%.
City directors, people that advertising on television, they don't give that message that in order to be healthy, you need to be off drugs. They don't give you that message. They give you the message that, oh, you have a problem, you have an issue, here's the drug, that'll fix you.
And a lot of money is driving this message home. The average American television viewer now sees as many as 16 hours of drug advertising a year.
The pharmaceutical industry reaches right into our living rooms on a daily basis and tries to convince us that we have this problem that they can solve with a pill. That's dangerous.
If you watch any primetime TV, you watch any primetime news, you're going to get multiple advertisements for whatever the current med is of choice.
On television, there are ads now that say, you have got this condition and you're feeling miserable. Ask your doctor to give you this pill. Take this pill, it's over the counter. We're being taught, our society really pushes the idea of quick, simple answers.
Ask your doctor if a pill is right for you.
Ask your doctor about Cymbalta.
Talk to your doctor about Zoloft.
Ask your doctor about prestige.
Ask your doctor about
Talk to your doctor about the risks and benefits of adding Abilify. You can convince somebody that they've got a medical or biological problem, that's the only thing that solves it. The pill seems to be the pill.
To see how effective this Ask Your Doctor marketing strategy is, one study sponsored by the National Institute of Mental Health in 2005 sent trained actors in to doctors and psychiatrists' offices, claiming to be depressed and asking for a specific antidepressant. 50% of them received a prescription for the very drug they requested. And even if the actor did not ask for any psychotropic drug at all, he was given a prescription a third of the time.
The doctors feel tremendously pressured to please the patient, to prescribe what the patient is asking for. Nobody likes being labeled as the doc who didn't do anything for them.
The doctor is a businessman, and he knows that if he doesn't fulfill that patient's request, there's a probability that that patient will go elsewhere because he'll find somebody that's willing to prescribe that drug.
It should be the doctor's choice. It should be the doctor's evaluation driving the use of any medication. It shouldn't be giving a patient the opportunity to see something on TV and come in and ask for it by name, because doctors then are immediately put in a situation where they feel pressured to pull out the prescription pad, whereas they should have come to that conclusion based on their actual clinical data.
But getting the patient to walk in and demand psychotropic drugs for non-existent diseases has taken that power out of doctors' hands. And this has been done through psychiatric drug marketing campaigns that fill the coffers of media outlets. Drug advertising on television, for example, accounts for 55% of the pharmaceutical industry's direct-to-consumer advertising budget. And estimates show that if this television advertising were ever banned, prescription sales in the United States alone would plummet by $10 billion. Magazines and other print media also depend on pharmaceutical companies for much of their advertising dollars, over $1.8 billion a year. But is this a good thing? Do such massive amounts of ad revenue taint what we see in the media?
Now, obviously, the advertising pays for the television program. So the real money is in the advertising, not in the television program. So that's where the money is. I don't know of too many magazines that want to run huge advertisements blasting the drug companies that are paying for the magazine on the next page. They're going to take a lot of heat, and people are going to pull their ads if they start doing that. So again, you have a huge conflict of interest at the mass media.
This partnership between the pharmaceutical industry and the media also extends to public service announcements promoting psychiatric disease.
Americans living with schizophrenia.
Kids with ADHD or you have postpartum depression, still dealing with depression, it could be your time for change.
Psychiatrists are featured promoting drugs in video news releases, which look just like TV news reports, but are, in reality, drug company-produced marketing spots. On news interviews, the experts furnished come from approved drug company speakers bureaus, and these psychiatrists rarely disclose their financial ties. As a result, mental health care segments in the media rarely deviate from the psychiatric party line. Psychotropic drugs are mentioned in movies and television, such as Prozac from the TV series The Sopranos, and Zoloft, a product placement in the film The Sixth Sense. This mountain of marketing is not confined to broadcast media only. Print, too, is inundated with drug propaganda, masquerading as news and information.
All you have to do is look at any accepted magazine in America today, whether it be anything, a women's journal, a men's journal, there's always some type of pharmaceutical product that's being focused. And they've gone so far as to give away free samples. What you do is write in this coupon.
And the psychiatric drug message has even infiltrated the taxpayer-supported public radio. For instance, psychiatrist Frederick Goodwin hosted a talk show for years where he championed the use of psychotropic drugs. As we'll be hearing today, Dr. Goodwin assured his listeners, modern treatments, mood stabilizers in particular, have been proven both safe and effective in bipolar children. What he did not say was that he would be paid $2,500 by pharmaceutical company GlaxoSmithKline to give a lecture that very night promoting their mood stabilizer drug, Lamictal. And there was more. The very week that Dr. Goodwin told radio audiences that there is no credible scientific evidence linking antidepressants to violence or to suicide, he raked in $20,000 from Glaxo, which had already admitted that it had suppressed studies revealing that its antidepressants increased the risk of suicide. Further investigation revealed that Goodwin had failed to report more than $1.3 million in drug company income. Might this level of conflict of interest be preventing the mainstream media from revealing the full truth about psychiatric drugs?
As long as we have direct-to-consumer advertising and the marketing dollars and pharmaceutical companies put into it, you will not hear a companion story or any information about a school shooter or a person who went to their work and killed all their family members and friends. You will never hear whether or not they're on a medication. What you will hear is how depressed they were. You'll have consultants after consultants and psychiatrists after psychiatrists coming up and being interviewed to discuss how mentally screwed up that person was and how they weren't doing their treatment the way they were supposed to, or they didn't seek treatment when they should have.
This story has protected psychiatrists and their drugs for decades. To understand why one hears it so often, one need look no further than the bottom line. As parts of large corporate giants, today's media companies are in the business of making money. And to their CEOs, keeping stock prices high is part of their job description. And when pharmaceutical advertising money is your lifeblood, there is little chance you will rock the boat. With traditional sources so compromised, one might wonder if the information they're getting on psychotropic drugs really is the whole story. But what about the internet? Well, psychiatrists and drug companies are already pushing psychotropic drugs in cyberspace too, with very few restrictions.
If a patient goes online and looks up a drug, I'm putting the drug's name, and there'll be a bunch of sites that come up. Many of those sites will be funded by the drug companies, but you won't be able to tell from the site. You'd have to, dig up, if at all. You may have no idea that site was funded at all by the drug companies. And especially those ones like Ask the Doctor. Those are definitely drug company driven.
Through every communication outlet they can influence, psychiatrists and drug companies team up to drum out one single relentless message. You are sick. We've got the answer. And ask your doctor. Women are a special target for these campaigns, both through magazines and daytime talk shows. This appears to be working, with almost 2/3 of all psychotropic drugs taken by women.
We don't get the full truth because the media is owned by big pharma. You just turn on your radio or open your newspaper and you find ads. They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. They don't tell the truth.
It's a vicious cycle because the more these drugs are marketed, the more people want to take them. The more money goes to pharma to market more drugs.
But despite their success, psychiatrists and the drug companies they work for are not satisfied only with media campaigns. So their next strategy is, how do you convince even more people to take psychotropic drugs, all the while remaining a hidden influence? Billions are spent every year by drug companies to advertise their latest drug. These efforts are obvious. But are there hidden ways that psychiatrists and drug companies can get you to ask your doctor without your even knowing it? It might seem impossible that an appetite for psychotropic drugs could be created without one's even being aware of it. Could this possibly be true?
Yep.
Well, if you know what to look for, you will find drug marketing campaigns practically everywhere. In hospitals, programs promoting psychotropics air over closed-circuit television networks like the Patient Channel. You can find them in children's shows such as Brandon and Bipolar Bear, where a little boy is told that his feelings are caused by chemicals in his brain that can be controlled with good medicine. There are mental health awareness programs touring college campuses to promote mental health checkups. Another TV promotion.
They teaching you to be stupid. That's fucked up. They're teaching you to be stupid.
Come from industry-funded programs operated by psychiatrists, but chosen as compassionate patient support groups.
Ain't that a bitch?
A group that's focused on.
Do you hear what they doing to us as the fucking sheeple?
Those are all also.
They're teaching you to be fucking stupid.
The fact that they're being highly funded by the drug companies puts into question the information that they're providing.
Come on now, the fucking it ain't no good.
A global survey estimates that 2/3 of all patient advocacy groups depend on drug companies or device manufacturers for at least some of their income.
Yep.
Through media interviews, public service announcements, and promotional events, psychiatric front groups preach the message that at least 1/4 of everyone on Earth is mentally ill. You could be too, and there is nothing you can do about it short of taking psychotropics for the rest of your life.
Wow. Wow.
And of all the programs
they sold that shit to you. They sold that shit to me too. I was on fucking psyche fucking drugs too, cause I was listening to a fucking doctor. Fuck a doctor, blind bastard.
Psychiatrists and their very broad DSM-based screening questionnaires that cover common life situations such as sadness, nervousness, and occasional loneliness.
Because the symptoms are so subjective and the way they describe it, everybody's got depression. So then they started targeting the kids and doing this at schools, and they implemented it through the school process.
I can't believe y'all fucking parents, y'all some stupid motherfuckers too. How the fuck you gonna put your fucking kid on some Ritalin? You dumb motherfucker. You listen to that fucking doctor, bitch ass. But I was stupid like you too. And you stupid like me too, cause you are me and I am you. I'm just here to tell you the truth so you can know the truth for you. Shit, so you can start doing smarter and having more
than a spectacular marketing opportunity.
And doing more.
Screening for mental
and
health
making more smarter choices.
Sponsors national campaigns such as National Depression Screening Day, which uses simple quizzes to screen people for mental illness. But what is not revealed is that screening for mental health has taken in a total of almost $5 million from at least 7 different drug companies. all makers of psychotropic drugs given to children. Of all demographics, these mental health screening
Like I said again, people,
especially target.
you won't be able to hear this here on YouTube, not on my channel. And if you go try to find this here on there, it's gonna be hard to find it.
High school students under the guise of suicide prevention. Teen Screen was developed by Dr. David Schaff.
But go look for it. All you got to do is go look. They fucking killing us as the fucking people. And you gonna see all type of shit that they doing to people.
Targeted high school kids on the teen
It's fucking us up.
It asks, do you sometimes feel like other people have an easier life, or do sometimes you feel bad about yourself and other times you feel good about yourself? Well, given where you are in that particular day and what's happened, you're going to answer that differently.
Yep.
This test comes back that the child answered it based on how his emotions were at that very moment. That information gets passed back to...
It's fucked up. I'm probably lay there and get my... and set my doctor up. To show that these motherfuckers are straight up fucking old people. Or misdiagnosed.
Studies now show that once in front of a psychiatrist, 9 out of 10 children are prescribed a psychotropic drug. Using alarming language and misleading statistics, Teen Screen
you might well say
parents fearful that their child may be suicidal. But a closer look reveals that this
drugs will be the ones making motherfuckers suicidal
at all, but a drug marketing campaign.
Yep, and your kids get on the drugs, then you'll be suicidal.
Diagnostic net creates a huge rate of what are known as false positives. By Schaffer's own admission, 84% of all students taking the Teen Screen test were falsely labeled as depressed or suicidal. Predictably, Teen Screen is viewed with suspicion by many parents. To get around this, Teen Screen personnel have offered school children such enticements as movie coupons or free pizza to motivate them to get their parents' signature on the consent form. To eliminate parental objection altogether, Teen Screen has even instituted a passive consent policy, whereby if the parent does not formally object in writing, the child is assumed to have gotten permission and is then screened.
Typically, the permission slip that comes home is a permission slip that if you don't sign it,
that means
they will give the children the screening anyway.
And for many who do complete the screening questionnaire, the results
give medication.
In Colorado, Teen Screen labeled over half of all school children as at risk for suicide. In spite of a government-documented teen suicide rate of less than 1 in 10,000. Far fewer odds than being struck by lightning. In fact, in the last decade, the American teen suicide rate has not risen, but has actually fallen by 25%.
Unless they own pharmaceutical drugs.
Doing something like a Teen Screen is actually going to reduce suicide. They themselves have indicated that the numbers are so small, the suicide rate is so small, that you can't really get an accurate read on whether it works or not.
On top of this, there is now evidence that far from preventing suicide, screening programs actually cost. The chair of the National Institute of Mental Health Research Consortium concluded participants were more likely to consider suicide a solution to a problem after the program.
After the program.
And research has shown that once put on psychotropic drugs, children are more likely not just to consider suicide, but to actually follow through.
That you may have more people that are so distraught by the way they are when they under the influence of the drug that they do commit suicide. And I think it's entirely possible that instead of saving lives, they're going to be losing lives, which is suicide.
With no evidence of effectiveness on one hand and a huge downside on the other, Teen Screen is still being run in 43 states at over 500 sites. But it is not the only screening program aimed at children. The Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System administers a 35-minute test in at least 45 states. Yet another, Signs of Suicide Incorporated, has screened thousands of children at 3,500 schools across the United States. They too are heavily backed by pharmaceutical money. And so far, for psychiatrists and drug companies, it has been a great investment.
Growing up in doing a typical teen screen or any type of mass assessment, we now have increased our client population tenfold. My kids would need to be either seen by a therapist and or seen by a psychiatrist.
The internet is another rich source of new prospects. Take, for example, the Patient Health Questionnaire, a 16-item checklist that allows anyone to diagnose himself with depression within 8 minutes. One of the questionnaires developers was psychiatrist Dr. Robert Spitzer, the architect of DSM-3, and its copyright is owned by Pfizer, the world's largest pharmaceutical company, and maker of the antidepressant Zoloft. There is also a 2-question version that can take less than a minute to advise you to ask your doctor. Online screening questionnaires abound, testing such potential psychiatric disease categories as bipolar disorder, ADHD, narcissism, self-esteem problems, eating disorders, and sex addiction.
We all have ups and downs because that's what normal life is. If you administer the screening on those times where you have downs, you're going to be labeled as having a mental health issue. Where if you took the same screening later, you may not be, but you've already been labeled that way. And that's the danger of that.
That's the danger of that. That's the danger. Nah, cause I'm about to live there and break my shit down so they can get my label off me. Them motherfuckers gonna say that's the reason why they stop my ambulance, cause I have anxiety attacks. I don't give a fuck if I have anxiety attack. They stop the ambulance. I'm going to the hospital. How the fuck you do that? Somebody explain that to me.
Psychiatrists
I still got the tape of it. Somebody should have went to jail. Somebody should have got fired behind me. Because if I'd have died, what would have happened then? Nobody would have never known that the ambulance got stopped. Because nobody wasn't going to tell that shit. That's the motherfucker that stopped it.
Freedom Commission on Mental Health issued a comprehensive program that laid out its strategy for screening major segments of American society for signs of mental illness. Some of their goals included programs creating early detection of mental illness, enlarging the role of schools in diagnosing and treating mental problems, and expanding the use of mental health screening beyond the psychiatrist's couch and into the offices of primary care physicians.
It's going to screen the population for mental health. The whole population. They're going to do it by stages, starting with school children.
So far, mandatory mental health screening is not yet a reality, except for a few small segments of society. One of them consists of the most powerless and disenfranchised of them all, foster children.
A child goes into foster care. They label the child with some kind of a psychological problem. The child is immediately sent to therapy. Well, the therapist will say, well, I believe the child
needs medication. Wow.
Something. So they recommend that the child see a psychiatrist to have the drug administered.
Out of the 60, 65 families that I see, easily 90% of the kids they have the mental health diagnosis to begin with. If they get it from a psychiatrist, it almost always comes to things. And I think that we see identified as at-risk kids in the community, and we see some of the most intense situations. And a lot of them are on 4 or 5 different meds.
I've seen children that when they were taken out of their parents' custody and placed in state custody, actually seem happy, healthy, vibrant, energetic. And then, 2 months later, after they've begun taking these medications, they're slowed, they're vulnerable. It's the best way to describe it.
Today, all children entering Texas's foster care system receive mental health screening. The result?
Medication.
60% of the state's
Medication.
child population is diagnosed.
It would have been fucking 100%, but it went 60 because they had at least say 40 open.
And it is worse in other states. In Massachusetts, for example, 2/3 of children in state care are being treated for mental illness.
2/3.
Nationally, foster children are being drugged at over triple the rate of children in the general population. Such as
Cause they guinea pigs. What?
Foster child Gabriel Myers on 2 powerful psychotropic drugs. One carrying an FDA warning for causing suicidal thoughts in children. He hanged himself with a shower hose. Another market segment is active duty soldiers who are routinely screened at military clinics, labeled with a mental disorder. and given powerful and potentially violence-inducing drugs.
Iraq wasn't like Vietnam. There weren't illegal drugs everywhere. But there were drugs everywhere because every guy on post, they knew all they needed to do was go down and see the combat stress unit, the shrink, and he was the drug dealer on post for us.
Almost everybody that saw the body or was experienced the event were put on some sort of psychic.
Look, you can hear that boy.
Some
You
bases
can hear that boy voice.
were at, my fellow veterans were at, that
Fucked up his
everyone,
motor
the whole
skills.
platoon was on drugs.
I would say about 75% of active duty military is addicted to some type of
Nah, them brothers, they didn't get people
walk
straight.
around the military barracks.
It was all medication that had me all fucked up, wasn't thinking straight. Bunch of bullshit.
I've got friends who were in the army with me who are now dependents on perfect drugs because they were used to an Iraq and everyone got off it and now they're dependent on addicted.
We have huge numbers of military people on antidepressants. And so the suicide rate going down, which you'd expect if the drugs were effective, the suicide rate is going up.
This last January, we had more soldiers commit suicide than we had die in combat. And what's not being brought out much is the fact that the large majority of these soldiers were on these drugs. We're drugging the military at a rate we've never, ever seen before.
Yeah, because they don't want them dudes to wake up from this bullshit and see that this bullshit that they killing for.
Programs are planned for 43 clinics in 15 bases throughout the United States, Germany, and Italy. Studies reveal that as many as 12% of those serving in Iraq and 17% in Afghanistan are on some type of antidepressant or sleeping pill. A total of 20,000.
Knowing if they smoke some motherfucking marijuana, it'll be alright. Fuck y'all doctors and y'all bullshit. It's gonna be on tomorrow.
Psychiatric screening laws for them come to pass.
When a woman is pregnant, right during pregnancy, specifically right afterwards, her hormones are changing and sometimes raging. And to screen them and call it mental illness, if they have any type of emotional issues in any way, shape, or form, is utterly ludicrous.
Yeah, because they got a whole life form being formed inside of their body. Of course they gonna have mood swing. Shit, they got a whole life swinging. In a mood swing.
Have you ever been screened for mental illness?
I have not been screened for mental illness.
I know it. I have not been.
No.
Have you ever been screened for any mental illness?
No, I have not been screened for any mental illness.
Did your OB/GYN or gynecologist have you fill out a questionnaire that contains psychological questions?
Yes, my OB/GYN did give me a questionnaire that has psychological questions.
I've never been screened for mental illness.
Yes, I did. The first time I went to see my OB/GYN, I did fill out questionnaires about even family medical history, my mental state. I've not been screened for any mental illness or depression.
I did a questionnaire in my 6-week checkup, and it basically asked me about if I was crying, if I felt depressed. Yeah, it was a questionnaire about depression. If you were depressed, or if you had any history of depression.
Are you happy with your normal days? Are you happy about being pregnant?
Have you ever hurt yourself, or are you happy? I feel like hurting someone if I was angry.
Do you have illness in one of your family?
And it was very noticeable to me after the pregnancy that they're actually fishing for the postpartum depression. When I was pregnant with my daughter, before I had her, I had to take postpartum depression medicine from my 7th month on to my 9th month.
And where is the screening leading? To programs like a little-known drugging scheme originally formulated in Texas in 1995
In
called
Texas.
the Texas Medication Algorithm Project.
Algorithm.
TMAP.
There go that algorithm bullshit again. I ain't know nothing about no fucking algorithm till somebody told me about that shit. That's bad.
And what it was supposed to do was come up with the best practice for treating illness.
Using research funding from 11 different pharmaceutical companies, this panel, dominated by psychiatrists, created a step-by-step flow
Created.
that requires the prescribing of
Created
only
it.
the latest and most expensive psychiatric drugs
You
for
hear that, huh?
patients with mental problems. And if one psychotropic didn't work, doctors were obligated to try another expensive.
Oh,
And if
we ain't
none
nothing but in a big old
the next
motherfucking
step
petri
would be
dish.
electric shock
And we the motherfucking lab rats.
But those running tHE were hiding a major conflict of interest.
They didn't disclose that the researchers that were all involved in creating this, almost every single one of them had financial relationships with the pharmaceutical companies.
But Texas is not the only state with problems of corruption. Alan Jones was an investigator in the office of the Pennsylvania Inspector.
A lot of these monies were all coming into the state to support and to promote a program called tHE, the Texas Medication Outreach.
Wow.
And so my concern was peaked very quickly that there was at least one
Mr.
state
Mill.
official who might be
Mr. Mill, I'm coming straight to you.
dispersing monies from drug companies. They call it PEMNAP. That was based entirely on the tHE model. Also very quickly, I learned that there were other state employees who were serving on advisory boards for various pharmaceutical companies and other state employees who were accepting honorarium personally, directly, from drug companies for speaking in their state capacity, or official capacity. That's a felony in Pennsylvania. I saw there was a much bigger picture, an attempt to focus that bigger picture, and there's consistently the back off. So the drug companies write checks to politicians from both sides of the aisle. Back off. You will make sure this investigations into drug companies continue to conduct investigations. Much of them are getting increasingly alarmed that all of the drugs recommended by the tHE program were exclusively the new patented atypical antipsychotics for schizophrenia, and all of the brand new patented SSRIs for depression. None of it ever worked. When it became obvious to me that my investigation was not going to be permitted to continue, it became obvious to the general doctor that I was not going to stop. I was removed from the investigator because they threatened me with loss of career, loss of job, loss of reputation, essentially.
Despite the investigation resulting in the conviction of Pennsylvania's chief pharmacist, tHE and offshoots like PEMNAP spread throughout the country, generating billions of dollars in drug sales. But the psychiatric gravy train comes at great public cost. In 2001, tHE and its children's booklet, tHE, bankrupted the Texas Medicaid program and the state's mental health
bankrupted.
So, what do we see in the final picture?
Bankrupt.
A government-run, taxpayer-funded
Bankrupted. Yeah.
Every person
told y'all government ain't worth a motherfucking quarter. That gov is demented people.
and expensive psychotropic drugs. And if they don't work, electroshock.
They're going to start with school children, then they're going to move it to senior citizens, then they're going to move it to personal. And then...
But we ain't gonna do anything.
By the time you're 18, you've been screened in utero. When you were an infant, you were screened as an infant when you first came home. You were screened when you're a daycare, you were screened at school, you were screened at the pediatrician's office, you were screened in high school. You're screened over and over.
And the secretary passed laws requiring that people be screened and drugged based on screening.
Fuck the government, man. The government ain't my motherfucking creator. Fuck.
The marketing is madness all over this country, and we are actually becoming an example for the rest of the world.
Yep.
So we're, again, the poster child of people are
We the poster child. That's left in analyst.
more and more on drugs.
I don't know that there was ever a time in the history of the world where people have been drugged to the extent of what we're seeing today.
The reality is, if you look at the overall picture, I don't see these drug companies doing better.
Nope, nope.
The military, we see it in our children.
Yep,
We see it in the
yep,
schools.
yep,
Drugs
yep,
are not
yep,
working to
yep.
make a better society.
Nope.
And with hidden mental illness marketing campaigns, What happens to patients once diagnosed and delivered into the psychotropic drugging machine? If drugs are being sold as safe and effective by psychiatrists and drug companies, why is it that we are seeing an alarming increase in consumer-reported adverse side effects? What are psychiatrists not telling us? All drugs create biological changes in the human body. In mainstream medicine, those changes that are intended are called main effects. Those that aren't are called side effects. No drug is without effects, side or otherwise. But with psychiatric drugs targeting delicate brain processes, all effects, even main effects, can be hazardous, unpredictable, and sometimes irreversible.
Yep, vinyl, baby.
Apparently supposed to be act as a magic pill. They're finding they all of them have side effects that could put the patient in harm's way just because it helps them.
So, just what are these drugs doing, and how do they work? To find out, you should be able to locate much of this information in the drug's package insert, or PI. Contained in this insert is the mechanism of action, the drug maker's explanation for how the drug works on the body. Take, for example, antibiotics, drugs used for over 50 years as a cure for infectious diseases such as tetanus, tuberculosis, and strep throat. Its mechanism of action is well known. Antibiotics prevent the cellular activity of bacteria, thus inhibiting its growth or killing it altogether. But with psychotropics, drug makers say on their own package insert that their mechanism of action is unknown.
Most of the medications that are given to clients, whether that's medications or they're antipsychotics, a lot of the pharmacology of these medications, they don't even know how they work in the first place.
But it has been noted that there is one primary side effect of psychotropics that is common to all.
Most medication is psychotropic medication of notice tends to cramp. So that's why you're decreasing the depression, you're also decreasing the stress. And so you're minimizing what needs to be treated in the service of avoiding dealing with depression.
They can't connect to the world around them. They feel like there's no signal.
Yep.
All that's doing is really numbing.
It kills the cat.
But the numbing of emotions is not the only way psychotropic drugs affect the user. Each of the 5 main classes of psychotropics has side effects of its own. Typical antipsychotics, such as Forest, are powerful chemicals, originally designed to shut down the central nervous system of mental hospital inmates. They are now mainly used on people with serious mental problems, and they can cause feelings of helplessness, deterioration of the mind, neurological damage, dementia, trembling, twitching, and damage to internal organs, to name a few. Anti-anxiety drugs such as Valium and Xanax are prescribed for nervousness, anxiety, and panic disorders. They can cause patients dissociation, cognitive impairment, increased aggression, fatigue, hallucination, and acute amnesia.
Boy, it sounds like everything I was going through when I was in the hospital.
They have weight gain. They're now diabetics. It's one symptom after another. All caused from the drugs that they're taking from the don't work.
I realized it because the creator showed me. And then said, here, go back and live life straight. Not to the full rights. Live it straight. And I want you to take on the name. Mr. Glasses, let me tell you why I told you to take on Mr. Glasses. I told you to take on Mr. Glasses so you can really see some shit.
Anxiety, insomnia, violent behavior, and even sudden death. Ritalin, a stimulant commonly prescribed to children, acts on the body in a very similar way to cocaine, but is far more potent. And recent studies show that it can cause permanent changes in children's developing brains.
So you're going to have problems, and it is shown that some of these medications, particularly the stimulants that they're giving, like Ritalin, Serta, all the ADHD medications,
actually shrink brain tissue.
They know that these psychoactive drugs destroy cells, destroy brain cells, shrink brain tissue. How can it possibly ever benefit anyone? It can't. That's just the truth. It's not possible.
Antidepressants are a fourth class of psychotropic drug. As their name suggests, they are used to treat depression and mood disorders. So the side effects include blurred vision, dry mouth, low blood pressure, internal bleeding, weight gain, sleep disturbance, seizures, impaired cardiac function, and psychosis.
The most common thing that I see is the sexual dysfunction. So women having a hard time reaching orgasm or just finding that their libido is lower. And I see that with men as well. And the second most common thing I see is weight gain. Right? To say it is not very uncommon to see 40-pound weight gain with antidepressants.
One study found that Paxil, a leading antidepressant, increases the risk of breast cancer in women by 7 times. Perhaps riskiest of all is the drugging of pregnant or post-baby with antidepressants for depression.
When the mother takes the drug, psychoactive drug, or any type of drug in that antidepressant, or anti-anxiety or antipsychotic drug, that's going to affect the baby as well as the mother, not just the mom, because the baby's going to get it straight to the umbilical cord through the bloodstream.
The drugging of pregnant women has led to a 20 to 30% hazard of preterm birth, brain damage, and lower fetal age at delivery, and nearly triples the risk of severe birth defects.
And the antidepressants that were shown to cause something called tHE, which is a heart problem in newborns. And I think it's criminal to be giving medications to women knowing that they're going to be at risk.
My mom takes Paxil, she can have a baby born with sometimes they have the limbs are missing, it's called limb reduction, or they have kind of cleft lips, they can have serious heart defects, missing chambers, or the arteries in the wrong place.
Nigga, let's go make some fucking money. We're talking $40,000 each every time.
These are just a few of the many side effects of psychotropic drugs. Among the top 3 best-selling antidepressant drugs, called SSRIs, there are 1,817 possible side effects associated with Prozac, 2,194 with Zoloft, and 2,497 with Paxil. Interestingly, among these is the worsening of the exact same symptoms the drugs claim to address.
They cause depression. They cause suicidal tendencies and ideology. So they cause a lot of the very exact symptoms that they're supposed to be correcting.
They're being treated for depression with a product that will treat depression. They're treating for psychosis with something that will create or has the potential of creating psychosis.
Atypical antipsychotics, one of the newest classes of psychotropic drugs, are used mainly on adults and children diagnosed with bipolar disorder. They are also known as mood stabilizers. Though launched with storied claims as miracle drugs with little or no side effects, atypical antipsychotics have recently been exposed as creating severe weight gain, diabetes, coronary heart disease, acutely irregular muscle weakness, pancreatitis, and delirium. Though the new antipsychotics were originally approved only to treat schizophrenic adults, over a 7-year period, prescriptions for children jumped 5-fold to an estimated 2.5 million prescriptions. And this drugging is coming with serious consequences.
You know, I've seen kids who have had significant weight gain with the antipsychotic, where they were pre-diabetic. You know, they've had changes in some of their cardiovascular function. So there are potentials to really damage your child's health.
When you get drugs that you're giving to kids that we know cause extreme weight gain and attack the liver, attack the kidney, that have long-term results, these children that we're giving them today, this medication, we may be doing kidney dialysis for in 10, 15 years.
And it is not only children that can be affected. It has been estimated that psychotropic drugs are to blame for over 16,000 traffic accidents every year in the United States. And this study only looked at drivers 65 and older. And what happens when these unwanted side effects surface? Usually, the psychiatrist will prescribe yet another drug.
It's called polypharmacy. Adding additional, the first drug doesn't work, you add a second drug. If you have an adverse side effect from a drug, then you add another drug to deal with the adverse side effect.
And then let's say they start an antidepressant and now they can't sleep. So in order to counteract that, they'll be given a sleeping pill. Then a tolerance builds up. So they might now need another drug because they're now at a tolerance level of the first drug that it's no longer creating the quote expected or helpful result.
So now uncommon to see people with 5, 6, 8, 9, psychotropic drugs. And there's actually not a shred of research that supports that these drugs can be used safely and effectively in combination.
Consider tardive dyskinesia, a movement disorder entirely caused by psychotropic drugs. For 20 years, beginning in the 50s, psychiatrists failed to inform patients about the link between tardive dyskinesia and antipsychotics, such as Thorazine and Haldol. By the time psychiatrists admitted the truth about their pills, thousands had been permanently crippled. Even today, tardive dyskinesia has developed in 73,000 older adults, and drug-induced Parkinsonism has appeared in 61,000 more. But this class of psychotropics is far from the exception. Reports are now surfacing that today's atypical antipsychotics and antidepressants, such as Zoloft, are causing widespread tardive dyskinesia, sometimes within months of first use. But psychiatrists and drug companies continue to dispute this damning new evidence and go on prescribing these drugs, even to children. But of all the side effects experienced by users of psychotropic drugs, the most horrendous may be an intense inner agitation and restlessness known as akathisia.
These drugs can cause something called akathisia, which causes people to become very agitated. And actually, a little nuts, a little off balance. And they'll do things they never would have done before. Things are totally out of character.
This is a normal person without any history of auditory hallucinations, and all of a sudden they'll say there's voices telling them this is the only way to stop the pain, it's the only way is to kill themselves.
I had patients tell me that they never, ever, ever had one single thought about suicide in their entire life until they started them.
An estimated 10 to 25% of SSRI antidepressant users, close to 7 million people in the U.S., experience akathisia. And Psychiatry's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders even admits the connection between psychotropic drugs, akathisia, and suicide. The statistics back this up. The suicide rate of the general population is less than 11 for every 100,000. But for every 100,000 people taking SSRIs, the suicide rate jumps to 718, over 65 times more. And yet, we are told daily by psychiatrists and drug companies that psychotropic drugs actually prevent suicide. So, what are we to believe? One can start with the drug company's own warning letters to doctors, or unpublished data for the antidepressant Effexor, or an analysis of Prozac using the FDA's own statistics, or even a British House of Commons report on Zyprexa. Of course, not everyone commits suicide, but the huge volume of other side effects can be horrendous.
The medication that the psychiatrist prescribed made me feel awful. Constant headaches, constant nausea, wanting my skin to turn inside out, just feeling like bugs were crawling all over me all the time.
It made me feel like all slow and sluggish and stuff. Like, when somebody asked me something, I could like take a minute.
Somebody else can drive the jet if you want.
These drugs have affected my heart. They have affected my liver. Weight gain one time. Hit like 40 pounds.
These thoughts come over me like I wanted to kill someone. I wanted to really hurt somebody.
It just sucks all the life out of you. So you're like a body, like a machine.
I didn't want to live. I didn't have the desire to live. I felt miserable.
You just can't live, you just rather die. Because there's no living when you're hallucinating every day.
I actually tried to commit suicide with my psych medication.
I tried to commit suicide too. On that fucked up ass medication that the doctor gave to you. And they don't understand that you go home with that shit. You gotta deal with that shit when they ain't around.
But what about those who say psychotropic drugs really did make them feel better? That for them, these are life-saving medications whose benefits exceed their risks. Are psychotropics actually safe and effective for them?
So what ends up happening is that someone feels good for a while, and then very often they have to have their dose increase, and then they feel good for a while, and then they might have it increase again, or maybe they'll switch agents. So it's that kind of a story. You're not actually getting to the root of what's going on.
I think the research is pretty clear that when also starts to change and start to have a super sensitivity to being depressed, in which case then they become more depressed, and then they're chronically depressed.
And there's ample evidence that if the short-term side effects of psychotropics don't get you, the long-term effects will.
Psychiatric drugs are toxic to the body. They do build up in the body and add to the body's reserve and reservoir of hormones that will suppress the immune system, and the body will try to fight them as foreign objects.
If they're on these medications for years and years and years, and one of the things that we know about adults and some of the, for bipolar and schizophrenia is that they're dying at younger ages. And these are adults, but they're starting this medications for young kids. What is their life expectancy? No one's really examined it or is looking at the big picture, which is what's it really do for society with a proliferation of mood-altering, emotion-altering, or blunting in a society at large. And I think we're going to really see a huge increase in violence and suicide and a lot of bizarre behavior that we haven't seen because for a very short period of time, only in the last 60 years, have we really started medicating, intoxicating our brains with incredibly toxic substances.
The very real probability of significant long and short-term side effects should give anyone considering taking psychotropic drugs great pause. But what about those already taking them, who, no matter how hard they try, cannot get off? Psychotropic drugs have long been noted for having a multitude of physical and emotional side effects that many simply cannot live with. But if side effects from psychotropics are so bad, why do some people continue to take them? Psychiatrists, drug companies, and even government agencies are entrusted with the safety of the drugs they put on the marketplace. And while they will reluctantly admit to most side effects of psychotropics, there is one more that they almost never mention.
Every single one of these drugs are addictive, psychologically and or physically addictive.
They change your body's makeup, they change your body how it reacts to things. And so even though people in a psychological state, they may be over their depression, they physically will need that drug still. And so that becomes the complication of getting them off.
I have people come to me on a weekend, they run out of refills, and they say to me, if I don't take this drug, I'm going to get sick. If I don't take this drug, I'm going to get sick. We don't talk about psychological. We don't talk about depression. We don't talk about anxiety. I am going to get sick if I don't take this drug this weekend. It has nothing to do with psychology.
But listen to what some psychiatrists questioned at a recent APA conference had to say about addiction.
How addictive are psychotropic drugs?
They are.
Only